All right. All right, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what that just was. We are live, ladies and gentlemen, with a special edition here of the VinceDao Show. I'm going to play the intro, and we will get started here. Stay tuned. And we are live, ladies and gentlemen, from the great state of Florida. Welcome, everyone, to the VinceDao Show. I am your galaxy-brained host, VinceDao. And as usual, before we begin tonight, everyone be sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe if you are new. Tonight, we are doing a special edition of the show, special start time, because Destiny is going to be debating Cenk Uyghur. Now, if you don't know who any of those people are, Destiny is probably the biggest, liberal YouTuber on the internet. Cenk Uyghur, he's the guy from the Young Turks, that progressive guy who's always like, hey, he talks like this, and he screams like this a lot, and he says, Alex Jones, get off the stage. That guy. So they're going to be debating tonight, and I figured it would be just interesting content, to say the least, to... Excuse me. I thought it'd be interesting content tonight to at least react to it. To be real, it starts at 9 o'clock, which is a few minutes from now. I don't know if we're going to make it through the whole thing. I'm not going to just sit there and watch it, because I don't think you guys care enough about the debate to really just sit down and listen to it. So I'm going to watch it. It's going to be like a third person almost in the room. I'll just pause it when I want to pause it, give you reactions, give you takes. That's how we're going to cover it. I feel like that's the way probably people want us to cover it, is to kind of... I don't even know what they're going to be debating about. How do you, between Cenk Uyghur and Destiny, have so much to debate? But apparently, according to their Twitter promo, it says they're going to be debating on Joe Biden, Kyle Rittenhouse, and a few other things. So I don't know. Destiny, I guess, sometimes is sort of moderate. Like, he has some more centrist takes. And then Cenk is just hey, I'm a progressive. I don't know, whatever. So it'll be interesting, to say the least. That starts at 9 o'clock. While we wait, if you want to support the show and you got questions or comments that you want read and answered, feel free to send it in via the super chats, which I know Kendall has already been going crazy. So let's get really quickly here to some of these super chats. Kendall for $2 says, Chase should be on. Which Chase are you referring to? The Chase from the Whatever podcast? I've been wanting to get him on, actually. Our schedules have not aligned yet. I remember we were going to do it. He was busy, and then I think I was busy. But yeah, definitely want to set that up at some point, if that's the Chase you're talking about, which I'm not sure. But thank you for the $2. Kendall for another 2 says, new show on Twitter by the one and only. That is true also. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Tucker Carlson launched his very first episode of the Tucker Carlson Twitter show today, and we are going to react to that as well. So especially considering, I think there's... My prediction is the first 15 or 20 so minutes of the Cenk Uyghur Destiny debate are going to be entertaining. And then after that, we're going to get bored and probably want to do something else. So I do have other content planned for tonight. We'll probably react to Tucker Carlson's first episode of the show, show him our support. And then also, I want to talk briefly about Chris Christie's presidential announcement today, which we may even have time before the debate to get to. But let me keep reading these super chats here. Louisianimal says, are they debating the Armenian genocide? Thank you for the $2. I mean, maybe, right? Maybe. I don't know. I don't really know what they're going to even debate about. But it'll be interesting. Have you guys ever seen that YouTube video? There's a very famous viral YouTube video called To a Certain Word Fighting. Okay, 2 R words fighting. I think that's basically, it basically sums up the sentiment of what we're going to watch here. And of course, I'm talking about really nice individuals. That's the R word. Kendall Weiler for another $2 says, Vince, you transphobic, misgendering right-winger. This is true. I've been misgendering Kendall. Apparently, he is a guy. He's a guy named Kendall. He's a boy named Sue. This is true. Sheeny Beanie for $2 says, Battle of the Halfwits. Absolutely. Yo Homoful just sends $5. No message. Thank you, Yo Homoful. And we got a member chat here from Daniel McQuaid, who says, all pride flags should... I don't know if I can read the rest of that on YouTube, Daniel McQuaid. but the chat can read it. Thank you for the member chat. Appreciate it. All right. So let's see. It is 8:56. I mean, we could just sit around and wait, but honestly, do you guys want to talk about Chris Christie right now? I feel like we should. We might as well fit it in. Or I guess I could just mention, I totally forgot to. Okay, today, obviously, June 6th is the anniversary of D-Day. Okay, so just wanted to, obviously say we remember their sacrifice. We honor their sacrifice. It is a great shame that, I mean, frankly, it is, that the country's in the current state, right now. And I think if we could, it's a good thing that we never have to sit down and show a lot of those men what the country has become. But I will say that their heroic sacrifice and their bravery can be a model for all of us here American patriots, truly. Because you think about it, right? They, that first wave, which in the culture war, you think about it, we are, right? We are the first wave. And not to compare the two, okay? They obviously made a way bigger sacrifice than us. But just as a model for inspiration, right? You think of that first wave, Omaha Beach, June 6, 1944, right? Running right into the machine guns, right into the MG-42s. Most of them died. Not saying most of us will die, but you understand, right? But that first wave did what? And then you had second wave, third wave. And by the last wave on D-Day, you were just walking onto the beach and walking right into France. Let those heroes' sacrifice and their bravery be a model, because in the figurative culture war we are fighting here, we are the first wave, and this is true. I just made that up on the spot. Was that impressive? Was that impressive improv tactics? I did not prepare that whatsoever, but it is true. Look at that. Look at that fantastic improving skills, and it's so real. Kendall for $50. Yo. Kendall says, moment of sacrifice for those who have lost their life for America. Well, God bless you for the $50, Kendall. I mean, I don't know how you do it on a stream, but I guess we could do that. Okay. Let's have a moment of sacrifice and a prayer for those who, lost their lives on June 6, 1944, and all those who sacrificed for our country. Okay. All right. Is that long enough? I don't want to make it awkwardly long, but I think that was good. Okay. All right, it is 8:59. Let's go into the Young Turks YouTube channel here and see what we got going on. So, but just so you know, if we get too bored of this, I'll watch 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. We'll see. We do have Chris Christie to react to, which he is arguably far more boring than the debate we're about to watch. But
why do you think John McCain voted no? Now look.
He did this presidential launch announcement today, and you just take a look at it. There were like 20 people there. It was the sleepiest thing you've ever seen, and it is fun. We're gonna have to react to that in a second, but yeah, for sure. Thank you for the $50, by the way, Kendall. Going absolutely nuts. Super donor Kendall. We appreciate it. Louisianimal for $2 says, Hiroshima and Nagasaki were the most Catholic towns. Thanks for the $2. I mean, is that true? I've never even heard of that. Is that true? And if true, is that just a coincidence? Is there a reason? Because how Catholic was Imperial Japan? Are we talking about 0.5%? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what was going on there. But okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Do I have my logo? Here it is. Okay. All right, let's see what we got going on here on the Young Turks YouTube channel. Which it might not be on this live. Hold on, let's see. Here we go. Cenk Uyghur's debate with Destiny. Okay. All right, we got the waiting room sitting here. All right, there we go. So we'll know when this absolute train wreck disaster, whatever we are about to see, actually commences. But in the meantime, if you guys want to send in super chats, and honestly, who cares? I'll probably just pause the segment, the debate itself, to read them. But feel free to do so. But now would probably be an opportune time because, we're sitting here waiting. You can see Destiny is just floating on, in the sky. Oh, here we go. Are we live?
Yeah, they're ready to go. They just
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, hey, what's up, guys? Obviously, I'm Destiny. Stephen Bunnell. This is my good friend, colleague. I don't even know what to call you, honestly. But I mean, you guys all know I'm from the Young Turks. Cenk Uyghur. Yeah, how you doing today?
Cenk Uyghur.
I'm good, brother. How you
I'm
doing?
good, brother.
Pretty
How
good.
you doing?
I'm so curious. What was like the impetus for this conversation? Like, what do they tell you?
brother.
What are we gearing up for here?
Should we just do that the whole time? Should we just imitate Cenk? I feel like it would make this, what we're about to watch, significantly more entertaining. But let's just watch the first 5 minutes in relatively good faith, and then I'm sure when we start getting annoyed, we can just start making fun of it. But here we go.
So I hear that you are evil and need to be defeated. Okay, no, Brianna Wu runs Rebellion PAC, and that's the PAC that I started, and that's to get money to progressives, so they can beat establishment Democrats. And ultimately, most importantly,
you know what's funny about that? Okay, are you guys gonna get mad if I pause a lot? I feel like this is the one thing where it's perfectly acceptable, because like, do you want to sit there and listen to them? No. You know, Cenk always says this. We're actually against the corporate Democrats. I'm a progressive. I'm anti-establishment. And then every single time, at least from what I've seen, because the only time I really watched them do anything was 2016 and 2020. Every single time, what ends up happening? They lose because even the Democrats don't like these stupid progressive candidates. And then Cenk Uyghur always just ends up shilling for whoever the establishment Democrat is. Every single time. And he did this, you know, 2020 was the prime example. Bernie needs to win. Joe Biden sucks, blah, blah, blah. And then Bernie doesn't win. And then all of a sudden, what do they go immediately back to doing? You need to vote for Biden. Trump is going to destroy the country. So, you know, every single time from Cenk and all these progressive types, you know, which props to at least the fringe of our party. I think we have a lot more guts than theirs. Because every single time, all the progressives do is just lie down and cave to what the establishment party wants. Many such cases. Daniel McQuaid for $6.99. Thank you very much, Daniel McQuaid. Says, my alpha move super chats sometimes end up dancing around the lines that are YouTube guidelines. YouTube is staffed by unicorns. Thank you for the $6.99 Canadian, Daniel. It is very true.
Beat Republicans. Right. And so it was her suggestion, and I was like, okay, sure, let's do it.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I guess I'll start. Are you familiar at all with anything that I do? Have you heard about any of my internet presence or anything? Or
yes, but I learned the hard way never to trust anything on the internet.
Okay, good starting base. Okay,
so
basically,
So Stephen, I'll just say, look, I know that some people say, oh, don't platform X, don't platform Y, don't go on here, don't go on there. Did you know what he said back when he was 17 or 37? And yeah, no, I don't care about any of that. Okay, so we're gonna have this.
I heard the rumors that you're in an open relationship and a marriage, but I don't think that's true. I heard it on the internet. It is true, Cenk. It is true. You are debating it. Yeah.
Discussion. And so if you've got something particularly terrible thing to say, or I do, we'll correct each other. Okay, so God bless. And I hear you're, you know, what do I hear about you? I hear you're an establishment hack.
Yes, proudly so. Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. I was just curious so that I know how to catch us all up. So the long and short of it is basically I got into doing online politics around 2016 with the era of Trump, along with apparently the entire United States got into politics more in that time period than ever before. When I first
actually, I'll just read it now so you don't forget. Leaks V for $5 says, thoughts on Daily Wire / Prager, you starting a tradcon dating podcast like Fresh and Fit or whatever as an altar call to Gen Z women. You should get on these shows. Thank you for the $5, Leaks. I think it's a decent idea. I think the problem is what draws eyes to whatever in Fresh and Fit is the drama. And, you know, they could just sit around and talk about femininity, but there'd have to be some type of conflict or clash, which is something they'd have to figure out. I am planning on starting a podcast. It won't be a dating podcast, but you guys know we've been raising money for, hey, let's do a podcast studio. I want to start one where, like, college students just debate political and social issues. Some of the dating podcast questions will come up occasionally, but not always. But, yeah, thank you for the $5. I mean, I think it's an idea, but I think they just have to figure out how to make it entertaining, right? Because that's why Fresh and Fit and whatever get so many eyes. All right, let's just go live. Screw the introductions. Let's see what they're talking about now.
But sometimes when it feels like we get so down on everybody, even establishment Democrats, that it's like, geez, it feels like there's no hope. Like if Biden didn't pass something that the most progressive person in Congress wants, then it's a watered down bipartisan garbage bill that he gets no credit for. And then kind of, I guess the ground for this discussion, I guess, can be the recent debt ceiling negotiation. But I mean, we can talk about.
So I think they're debating Joe Biden here. They're debating whether Joe Brandon is good president, I guess.
infrastructure bill, the American Rescue Plan, whatever other thing. I guess what is your general feeling of that? Like, is there any part of you that's like, you know what? He might not be the most progressive president ever. I think he is, but he might not be the most progressive president ever. But at least Biden did this or this in terms of major legislation. Do you have that feeling, or?
So yes and no. But it's a great question to start on. So first off, look, if you've come looking for hope, you've come to the right place.
Okay.
So I'm the king of hope. And I even wrote a poem called Hope.
That's not surprising from Cenk Uyghur, because like I said, the guy every primary cycle talks all this crap like he's this big revolutionary who's gonna take down Hillary and take down the DNC. Like, I remember 2016, he went on this rant about how you're not gonna get away with this, and then what happens? Go vote for Hillary Clinton. Go vote for Hillary Clinton every single time. And so this doesn't surprise me either, right? This is why, this is one of the reasons why I can't even respect progressives on a moral level, I guess. I mean, we disagree on literally everything, but they claim we're anti-establishment, blah, blah, blah. But what you see, and it makes sense because they run the system, is that they all, every single time, they just end up shilling back for the system. And they end up admitting, hey, Joe Biden actually is pretty good. Forget everything we said. You know, they're just weak. They're soft. And that's why they're lame. That's why Cenk Uyghur is so lame.
Okay, so and our audience knows I am intensely optimistic, and so when I get a sense of hopelessness, what I do is I try to fix it, and we do active things in the world. Like, we created Justice Democrats, we launched it on the Young Turks, we launched the improbable campaign of AOC, and nobody thought that was possible, and we did it. And
He's
then when we started Just Democrats, everybody thought you'd be lucky to get one. Now we have 11 in Congress.
Yeah, because AOC is definitely the reason
I 100%
you won,
believe in hope. Ro Khanna was on the show today on the Young Turks talking about what we can do to fight forward. Okay. Now, in terms of the Biden, no, look, if you say, hey, is there things that he's done well? Oh, absolutely.
This is already boring.
Here are a laundry list of things I'll give him credit for.
But
Getting out of Afghanistan.
Let's give it like 10 minutes,
and I did not agree
okay?
with corporate media. Oh, it was a mess. It was terrible. They always say that when we're ending a war. They never say it when we're starting a war, right? So, no, I'm thrilled that Biden got us out of Afghanistan. Did Trump start that process? He did. So what? Biden finished it, right? And he did it right away.
Well, we gave credit for something,
bill is good in the long run.
But that's not true. He didn't do it right away. He actually pushed back Trump's deadline, and then he kind of botched it because the thing is, when you're gonna evacuate Afghanistan, you should probably take the equipment with you, right? But he just left it behind. Like, that's not. And we didn't leave Afghanistan because our stuff is still there. It's like moving out of someone's house. Oh, you bought a new house, okay, fine, but you leave all your stuff there. That's basically the Joe Biden withdrawal. But just pointing that out. Yes, he's a progressive. I'm like an America firster. We agree on some of this foreign policy stuff. But Biden actually pushed back Trump's deadline by like 3-4 months. Don't rewrite that history. That's not true.
I have a giant asterisk on it, but I'll take it. Even the semiconductor bill, it's a giant giveaway to the semiconductor industry, but we do need a national semiconductor industry. So it's a complicated one. It's nuanced, right? The COVID relief bill had some of the provisions that help the average American the most out of any bill I've covered in like 20 years. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of that already sunset and was obliterated later on. So I can go on and on, right? But in terms of, is Biden a progressive? Absolutely not. Has he done enough? Absolutely not. Okay. And so it's not me being nihilistic to say that. I credit where credit is due and then discredit where discredit is due. So, for example, and I can give you many, but let's start here. So, Stephen, he said like $15 minimum wage was like bare minimum. Oh, of course we were going to get that. I remember when he got in office, and I told legislators, I said to people on air, our audience, etc., they're not going to do it, and everybody was incredulous. No, he promised that 8 weeks to Sunday. He's definitely going to do it.
No, he's going to do it. What did he do?
He had his 2 Delaware senators that are his top allies in the Senate vote against it. He came out and spoke during the Super Bowl interview against it. He was never going to do it. He was lying all along. He's been a conservative on economic issues for 50 straight years.
Is that what he is? He's a conservative? Okay.
And I can go down a laundry list of things he was never going to do. Paid family leave, public option. He promised public option 1,000 times. Never once proposed it. Never once even talked about it.
Sure.
Because he was lying.
Okay, so this is.
Then why did you support him, Cenk? Huh? That's the thing about Cenk Uyghur. Like I said, He always talk every single off year and then primary cycle. He talks his very tough game on the corporate Democrats, the establishment Democrats, and say, they don't actually do anything. They're not progressive. Right? But then every single general election cycle, every single time he just caves. Why do you think your party doesn't respect you? First of all, because you're irrelevant, because even a lot of the Democrat constituency don't like the radical wing of their party. And I would say in the Republican Party, it's kind of the opposite, right? In the Republican Party, our base is like very, very gung-ho. Their base is actually, in general, is more moderate, I guess, right? The more moderate wing of their party wins out all the debates and stuff. But yeah, I mean, if every single time you're just gonna cave and say, okay, well, we can't let the Republicans win, then the party's not gonna respect you, which they don't. Which is why I always laugh at Cenk Uyghur every time he just goes crazy on, I can't believe these Democrats are doing this. No respect for the guy.
Okay, I want to hone in on this. So firstly, I love everything you said at the beginning, okay? And I might repeat this line a lot. I feel like sometimes when I get people in front of me and we chat, their takes become very, very, very reasonable. But in going over like the videos for this conversation, the things I'm hearing, like in regards to the debt ceiling, I was like, there are no wins for Democrat, none, zero. Biden hates the middle class. Well, sure, the Democrats and Republicans are on the same goddamn team. Democrats just give McCarthy gift after gift after gift after gift. Do you really think that like a Republican administration?
Well, you guys are, you know, there is a win. You guys both get to spend money, which both the establishment GOP and establishment Democrats and the far left Democrats want. So I don't know what you're talking about there.
Administration would more or less do the same thing as like a Democratic administration or a Democrat administration?
So with an asterisk, yes. So like, for example, they did the IRS, funding the IRS $80 billion over 10 years. That was the one. And by the way, Steve, you can go back and watch our clips on Afghanistan, on the infrastructure bill, on all of these. I haven't changed my position 1%. So what I say on air at the church is what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
So, and now, and by the way, the reason you might notice me being more vitriolic is because those are the videos that get more attention, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And but I also mean those 200%. So like, so yes, the IRS bill was good, and that was a bill that
you guys. Cenk Uyghur says the IRS bill was good. The IRS bill to fund 87,000 new IRS agents, literally for no other reason to go audit normal people and go harass like normal business owners. Hey, you didn't pay taxes. Cenk Uyghur is on the record saying we should have given more funding to the IRS. But let's hear his justification for this. You freaking people. All right, now I'm actually mad. The whole time I've just been rolling my eyes. That take is unbelievable.
Definitely would not have done.
Which, by the way, you guys always say, right, that, oh, Joe Biden this is what you've been saying. Joe Biden is basically in bed with the rich. He's an establishment guy. He's not a real grassroots progressive like me. Okay, so if that's the case, if you believe to and agree as a progressive that there's just kind of like uniparty, and it's not the same uniparty I believe in as a conservative, but if you to some degree believe the system is kind of corrupt, why would you support funding new IRS agents? Do you think they're going to go after your 1%? They're going to go audit Elon Musk. No, they're not, right? If, according to you, because this is what you say the system is racist, you say the system is holding everyone down, you say like the capitalist overlords are running all the stuff and it's all rigged and all this stuff. If that's the case, then why would you be in favor of supporting new IRS agents? Those IRS agents, which I have been saying as a conservative, they're not going to be going over after the super rich, okay? 80,000 of them, they're all going to spend the whole time auditing Elon Musk taxes. You think that's what's going to happen? Or do you think they're just going to do what they already do, which is largely ignore the rich, because, you know, they're at least the rich people who are in bed with the government, and instead just go audit random middle-class people who don't have lawyers, maybe don't have the most professional accountant, whatever it is. What a despicable take. What an absolutely disgusting take from a person who claims to be, I'm for the middle and working class, but I want a bunch of IRS agents to go harass them for the tax returns. Unbelievable. I want to hear what he has to say about this. Are you people for real? You guys support funding new IRS agents?
Said, okay, look, give the Democratic Party credit there. There's a slight difference, even on economic issues, okay? So, okay. Now, having said that, the rest of it has been a disaster. So the debt ceiling, there was one tiny thing we got, and God bless. Okay, we got the exemption for homeless and veterans on SNAP. Okay.
Notice how that's one of his top priorities too. One of his top priorities is funding the IRS and giving them 80,000 agents. That's a great idea, dude.
The other 8 things were all for Republicans. We got nothing back. We didn't need to do it at all. And I think, and this is the part that's probably going to really bother you, I think that Biden wanted to do all those things. So when Obama was president, they invent this thing about, we're going to now negotiate the debt ceiling. Okay, it's a Republican ploy, but Obama and Biden love going along with those ploys. They love it. They could easily just go 14th Amendment. I'm done with it. Oh, by the way, if you'd like to wreck the world economy, that is going to be 100% on you. Okay. Well, instead, when he gets into a negotiation, it becomes 50% on him. And then in that negotiation, he gets almost nothing and gets slaughtered on everything else.
Okay, so let's hone in on this a little bit. Okay, so
that's just a dumb take. Like, I mean, the reality is I don't think Kevin McCarthy went nearly far enough, but just from a political perspective, of course, Biden is going to give leverage to the Republicans to some degree, because if there's a default, it's on him. Like, he's the one who's going to be remembered. And Cenk can say, people are going to realize that it's the Republicans' fault for not making a deal. Are they actually? I guess you're a progressive, so you vastly overestimate the IQ of the average voter. They're going to be like, the global economy sucks and Biden is president. So who are they going to vote out? Like, of course Biden was going to do that. At least, you know what I mean? So he just doesn't understand politics on that one. That's just silly.
Biden has largely gotten to pass a lot of major legislation, right? We had the infrastructure bill, we had the American Rescue Plan, like huge ticket things. And our budget has been insanely huge. On our discretionary spending, we're talking like $1.5 trillion over and over and over again. With the debt
By the way, everyone get the stream to 100 likes, okay? I want to see 100 likes on the stream. We're at 54.
Approaching, and with the Republicans taking the House, I'm pretty sure every single political analyst thought the Democrats were going to have to give a lot when it came time to negotiate on the debt ceiling stuff. Now, Biden said he originally wasn't going to negotiate, but regardless of how we feel, like it's a Democratic president. If the United States defaulted on the debt, it would be catastrophic. Failures to negotiate the debt ceiling are always going to hurt the sitting president more than the Republican Party. We're not going to be able to blame House Republicans when Democrats have the Senate and
I wouldn't have a problem with it, but Destiny is right. Yes, it actually would reflect on Biden. I don't know what Cenk is talking about.
The presidency. I feel like when we look at everything that was given, and I guess this is my problem when I listen to you guys talk about this, is I hear this like Republicans got everything they want. We just gave and gave and gave and gave. The difference between the House bill that McCarthy passed versus what was finally signed in the Senate, I felt like it was some of the, and I see everybody else say this. Greg was saying this.
Yell at each other,
the guys at Positive
please?
America was saying this. Even Ben Shapiro was admitting this, that the political maneuvering was pretty good. That like some of the stuff that was given up wasn't really a give up at all. So for instance, a lot of people had work requirements on SNAP.
Because McCarthy got absolutely nothing. The bill expands federal spending. So like, what did we do? Nothing.
Requirements were increased from 49 years of age to 54 years of age. But because of the wide exemption that was given for veterans and homeless people, I think the Congressional Budget Office, which is nonpartisan, their guesstimate was that the outlays in that program are actually going to increase. We're going to spend more money on that program than we were before. Because if you look at the unemployment in that age bracket, it's like 2.5%. Like most people are working in this age bracket. It's not like they're having trouble finding jobs or anything. And there's a lot of exemptions made for like people in for people with children, people from orphanages, people with mental illness. There's a lot of exemptions made for that. That's like one example. And there's like example after example after example of like the gives that we made were just not a big deal. And a lot of the important stuff like Social Security, Medicaid, repeals of the student loan debt, none of this got through on the Republican side. So when I see that like the things that we did give were things that were either coming anyway. So for instance, like the student aid, we gave the years.
Okay, can we have some
considering it was Republicans, like pretty decent stuff. Again, I understand that we didn't like fight for anything, we didn't get anything, but considering it was a House majority for Republicans, and considering people thought we were going to lose a lot more, I don't understand why there's not just like a little bit to be happy about there.
No, nothing, zero. Okay, so let me explain.
Okay.
So, look, brother, when you say political analysts expected that it would be worse, well, first of all, that's corporate media.
Destiny is actually right. Cenk, again, just doesn't know what he's talking about. Cenk basically says Biden should have, from a political perspective, now maybe it would have been nice for us conservatives, but Cenk says that Biden should have accepted a default on the debt unless Republicans embraced a totally liberal spending package. How would that have happened? Biden has no leverage, and Destiny is right? Like the default would reflect on him the most, not the Republicans. That's just stupid.
Media and corporate media always thinks the country is center right, that the Republicans are right on the debt and deficit. When they're clowns, Trump drove up the deficit by the debt by $7.8 trillion. Reagan, Bush, they all drive up deficits.
True. Last
Republican president to balance the budget was Dwight Eisenhower. Okay, but what does corporate media always tell you? Oh, the Republicans care about the debt. They care about the deficit. It's a lie. Okay.
True.
So when they say,
I agree with that.
Okay. Oh, but Biden has to give everything to the Republicans. He didn't give them everything. He gave them only 89%. Oh, what a champion. Well, yeah, corporate.
All right, we'll keep doing this till 9:30. Unless you guys want to sit and actually watch this whole thing, which I don't think it's already boring. I just wanted to see what it would be like. It's already boring. But we'll go for like 10 more minutes and then we'll see where we are, okay? Unless you guys are actually enjoying this, but I get the feeling. I don't know, we'll see. But anyways, Red Eagle Politics for $5. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Says, congrats to Vince for passing the legendary rep in subscribers. A massive feat. This is true. Thank you for the $5, Red Eagle Politics. Everyone be sure to go subscribe, though, to Red Eagle Politics. Best elections guy on the entire internet. This is real. Thank you for the $5.
Politicians are happy. Corporate Democrats are happy. Corporate Republicans are happy. Corporate media is happy. So that's not an argument at all, in my opinion. Okay, so you have to look at the actual policy, right? So what actually happened there? Well, are you right that the Republicans threatened to punch us in the face about 100 times? Yes. So, but when we get punched in the face 80 times, and then we get one thing back, that's the one that I mentioned on Snap, that's not a win. You got punched in the face 80 times. And Stephen, we didn't need it at all. The 14th Amendment is crystal clear. It says our debt shall not be questioned. It's one of the clearest amendments there is. The only reason you even entered the negotiations is if you want to give things away. And so I'll give you two of the specific examples that you mentioned, okay? So for example, on work requirements, and corporate media always moves the goalpost, okay? On worker requirements, first they came and the Democrats said no way. And corporate media says, Democrats say no way, they're gonna stand strong. Hakeem Jeffries puts out a strong statement. Oh, we will not.
Okay, I don't care about this. Let's see what they're talking about now.
They need that stock market healthy and vibrant. They would have cut those guys' throats if they had actually defaulted on debt ceiling. The trick is we pretend we're gonna cut it. Those are the bad cops. And then the good cops come and Democrats go, oh, God, well, golly, gee, I wish there was something that we could do, but there's nothing we could do. Hey, our donors are happy too. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, what a win for everyone. And two policy things that you mentioned there. One is when you talk about the IRS, so we both agreed that was a good bill that the Democrats passed. Now they're giving back a quarter of it to 20%, to 20 billion. Why doesn't Biden ever fight back rhetorically? Why doesn't he say, hey, wait a minute, I thought we were reducing the deficit.
There he is again praising the IRS.
Taking away $20 billion from the IRS actually increases the deficit by approximately $120 billion. Because every nonpartisan organization that's looked at it says $1 spent at the IRS brings you $6 back in revenue for the government. So why doesn't he do a press conference my Republican friends, and he...
What a loser. That makes me so mad. What a loser. Cenk, you're any male who enjoys paying taxes. Oh, please tax me more. Please, Brandon, tax me more. I love you, Brandon. You're literally yogurt, okay? You're literally yogurt.
Loves them. He always calls them his Republican friends. My Republican friends, I thought they cared about the debt. It turns out they want to destroy the debt.
Please tax me, please. I like paying taxes.
In order to protect the rich, because this is targeted at people making over $400,000, and they want to pile on debt just to protect the rich.
Is that what it is? By the way, okay, over $400,000, I would argue you're going to reach a point in this country very soon where that's not even considered super wealthy when you consider how much stuff costs. Yeah, but I'm sure that's what they're going to do, right? They're going to definitely investigate all the $400,000, not normal people. Definitely.
Won't have it, I'm gonna fight for you. And he never does that because he doesn't believe that. And in last thing on this, pay-go on the executive side. We've talked about like 8 different things to give away. One of them is pay-go. And that means that if you do any executive action, I mean, they weren't gonna pass any bills anyway, but if you do any executive action, the only thing he's got left for the next 2 years Now you have to take away something if you're ever going to spend money on anything. But that basically neuters the White House, the executive branch. Well, now, why did Biden throw that in?
Boring.
Wade and whether or not substantive due process or implied rights are even a real thing. I think it's very cautious, or I think we should proceed with caution when we say something like, oh yeah, like the wording on this particular part of the Constitution is very clear. Therefore, we have no debt ceiling anymore, especially when we're doing such a massive divergence of what's already kind of been set as like a political norm.
I don't
Not to say that that battle can't be won, but like if on one end we've got, okay, well, we can negotiate a little bit with the Republicans. They won the House anyway. And for the most part, we don't take too many big hits. Or on the other hand, we could gamble with the future of the world, but maybe you're going to win.
Okay, I'm gonna put out a poll to see if you guys want to continue this. I have a feeling we don't, but you know, we reacted to a little bit. I just want to see what it was like, but I'll put out the poll. You guys can decide.
Court, the sitting president isn't blamed, and the Republicans get blamed, which I don't even know if that helps us anyway, because it's not like the composition of the Supreme Court is going to change. And now all we've got is a country that can blame the Republicans for the fact that we've destroyed the world economy. It reminds me of the there's like I think it's like 5 people are sitting in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and they're like, man, we destroyed the whole world, but we sure did create some good short-term value for our shareholders for a brief period of time or whatever. It's like, yeah, I don't know if that's the kind of battle we want to be getting into. I mean, I understand the arguments for it, but man, in terms of like, why doesn't Biden fight back? This gets into kind of like, oh, well, you know, political theory and what are people doing? But like my interpretation of it, and I think quite a few people have had this interpretation, is that this was such an astoundingly good deal for Democrats, considering how bad it could have gone.
All right, move
that
on
it's
to
better
other
to just
stuff
shut
is
up
winning
and let
pretty big.
McCarthy and McConnell go out and say, oh,
65% say move on to other
we're very
stuff.
proud to vote for this, and let them have their win, where we're not really giving much at all, so that McCarthy's position in the House isn't threatened, and so that Republicans aren't in an uproar, that they weren't able to attack any of the entitlement programs, any of our big non-discretionary spending stuff, like they've really wanted to do. Republicans have been gunning for things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Republicans have been bloodthirsty to get rid of all of the student loan forgiveness, to claw that back completely. Republicans have been hungry to make huge cuts in the Inflation Reduction Act. They wanted to get rid of
62% of you are saying. I'll leave it up for a little bit. I'm surprised. There's like 40% that want us to keep watching. Now I feel kind of bad. I thought it was going to be like 99%. Please stop watching this. But, okay, well, let's see. We'll go for like a few more minutes. But dollar for $2 says, govern me govern. You know, I'm not going to read that. Thank you for the $2. I'm not going to read that, because then someone's going to clip it out of context and be like, hey, look what he said. But thank you for the $2. It is true. This is exactly what Cenk is doing. That's just so lame. Imagine being a guy who's like, please text me more. All right. Bad Peter, member chat, thank you very much, says, tune back in when they talk about Rittenhouse. Yeah, I mean, I was hoping, but at this rate, I don't think it's even going to be that interesting. I mean, we could try, but, you know, they just, this is just boring. There's no fireworks, nothing is really happening. They're just like, oh, well, I think Biden caved on the debt, and I think this. And they're not even really debating anything of substance. They're just saying, well, I think Biden politically navigated this right, and I think Biden politically navigated it wrong. It's not even a particularly interesting debate topic, to tell you the truth.
All the tax credits, all those green energy tax credits. McCarthy in the House bill got rid of every single thing. And again, the things that we gave were not that significant. You mentioned PAYGO, for instance.
He is right about that, though. Yeah, we, like, Republicans totally screwed up the debt thing.
30 billion there, 20 billion to the IRS, on and it goes. But Stephen, the larger point is, if you allow the Republicans to keep taking hostages, they will take hostages to the end of time.
Let's go!
So someone has to be strong enough, like LBJ on economic issues, FDR, and say, hey, I'm drawing the line, okay? If you don't ever draw the line, every time the Republicans are in office, like Trump, they never talk about the debts.
You realize both FDR and LBJ were also way more popular than Biden. That's part of the thing, too, is they had huge super coalitions because they were very popular presidents. Biden is incompetent of that because he's a vegetable. So
ceiling. In fact, we talked about it today on the Young Turks. Steve Bannon was there the first time they raised the debt ceiling under Trump. Now he's like, oh, all the Republicans should be primaried if they voted for this thing. What are you guys talking about? You passed it without a single word, right? So why not pound them on that? Why not say Steve Bannon did it, Donald Trump did it, etc.? Biden doesn't want.
Okay, 50% are now saying they want to continue watching. I mean, I guess we'll continue that. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that 51% of you guys are that entertained. Okay, we'll keep watching it then. and we'll listen. We'll sit here and listen, I suppose.
Just give in to Republicans and we accept loss.
I don't think
after
anything
loss
is happening.
After loss.
I'm just like,
and go, well, the losses
what are they even talking about?
worse.
Who cares?
Well, then
But
every time a Democrat gets elected, instead of us winning, we're going to wind up losing. And that's exactly what's happening here. They're like, hey, don't worry, elect us. We'll get you voting rights. We'll get you minimum wage. We'll get you public option. We'll get you paid family. We'll get you all this stuff. And then you go, oh, no. When the Democrats in charge, we obviously lose because the other side takes hostages and we immediately give in. And when you say, hey, isn't bipartisan a good thing? My answer to that is, fuck no. Okay.
Based.
So
I
it
agree.
depends
I agree
on
with that.
what we're agreeing to. So bipartisan by itself
there you go.
doesn't mean anything. So if you say bipartisan agreement, for example, under Trump, even Gates and some of the other guys that were very right-wing came in and said, no, we have bipartisan agreement with the progressives that the president must come to authorize war through Congress. Well, I love that bipartisan agreement because that's the thing I agree on. When they have bipartisan agreement to take money from the average American and give it to the richest people in America, which is the bipartisan agreement that they reach 95% of the time, I hate that bipartisan agreement. To me, being bipartisan is not a value in and of itself. It's just a method to get to a policy that's either good or bad. And the press and Biden, et cetera, celebrated because it's a head fake. It's a distraction.
See, that's very interesting. I will actually pause and commentate on that. That is very interesting because he's basically saying the same thing that we as the conservative base say. Bipartisanship actually sucks because it means bipartisan destruction of things. The parties are in cahoots, blah, 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 this and that. I don't like the establishment. Now, some people may listen to that and think, oh, well, I think we can do a left-right populist coalition. I'll tell you why that wouldn't work for two reasons. Number one, they are insane, okay? It's like, yeah, we both kind of agree to a degree that, like, hey, the establishment is bad and both parties are, working against our interests or whatever. The difference is, the radical right wing says, hey, we want to return to a normal country where, families and Christians and normal white people were not demonized for absolutely no reason. And then the progressives say we want to cut people's penises off at the age of 3. So you see why it doesn't really work. That's number one. This whole idea that left and right on the far right and left can come together. Maybe it works in other countries. I've heard of it working in other countries. It would not work in this country. I share nothing in common with the far left. That's number one. But number two, the other issue with Cenk is that, as I brought up earlier, what always happens with this character? Every single time, every primary season, he goes out there and makes this super proud stand about how, I'm a progressive and we're anti-establishment and all that. But then every single time, what happens? They always lose because their ideas are not appealing, even within the Democratic primary voter base. And then every single time, they end up just shilling for the Democratic Party, right? They say, okay, fine, we'll vote for Biden, we'll vote for Hillary, we'll vote for whoever Nina Turner lost to in Ohio, right? Every single time. And then, they sit there and then pretend like they're anti-establishment. You guys are not anti-establishment. You guys are the establishment, right? Maybe to some degree, your certain economic ideas are not winning 100% in this country. But especially on an institutional level, on a social level, on a cultural level, progressives control America. They have the institutions. Effectively, they have won. And deep down, they know this, which is why the whole anti-establishment thing, in my opinion, is a total facade, right? It's just a face that they put on because they have to keep their base in the sense of perpetual revolution, right? Kind of paint the idea that we are martyrs, we are persecuted, and we're kind of speaking truth to power, right? Because it kind of keeps their base going. It justifies some of the things that they do. And so they will say that. And so Cenk Uyghur will go out there and say, but I think deep down he knows he runs this country, right? The powers that be are on his side in this country. And so it's all really a facade, right? It totally is. And that's why, so those are the two reasons why a left-right populist coalition, in my opinion, can't work. Yes, we both say we are anti-establishment. But number one, the right wing is anti-establishment in the sense that we want to return to a normal country with normal people. The other side wants to cut people's penises off. That's number one. And then number two, right, it's that they say they're anti-establishment, but they are not. And that's what you see. Like every single primary cycle, when it ends, you find out these people are not anti-establishment. They are the establishment. And deep down, like I said, they know that. So
what we did was terrible, but don't worry. It's moderate. It's bipartisan, these code words that we train you to believe are positive. Even
like I said, I agree with that statement. What he just said there, I 100% agree with. But what he means is not the same thing as what I mean. And that's the problem between us.
when you're getting totally screwed on it. And so, and the last thing I'll say is, you know, you mentioned a couple of times, hey, at least we didn't get Social Security, Medicare taken away, et cetera. Stephen, you got to acknowledge that's the lowest bar in history. Like, we get the Democrats, the White House, the House and the Senate in the first 2 years. And now, okay, we lost the House by a little bit. And now our bar is we didn't let the Republicans mutilate Social Security and Medicare. No, and plus, you got to be honest. I don't mean you, I mean Biden.
Pigeon Slayer in chat says, no, Vince, the establishment is far right. Yeah, this is what they tell themselves. But it's a lot like, I guess the best comparison is the Cultural Revolution, right? That's the best historical example I can point to in terms of this idea of the perpetual revolution, right? Early 1960s, actually, that's a great leap forward. Maybe more like late 1960s, I should say. Mao Zedong has full control of China. The communists won the Civil War. You know, they're totally in power. There's nothing that their enemies can do. But what did the CCP back then go out there and say? They said, the reason we are not where we want to be as a country is not because we are failing. It's because those dang traditionalists, right? And so what did they do? They purged Confucianism. They went after all the Confucians, killed them, all the religious people, all these concepts of traditional China, right? They tried to get rid of traditional gender roles and, you know, tried to... That's really, you want to talk about history, one of history's first examples of left-wingers trying to blend the male-female gender roles. They went out there, they said they tried to make the women dress like men and all that stuff and do this stuff, right? They pushed the feminism. They basically tried to tear down everything that was still old about China and purge a bunch of people, kill all the academics, kill all the professors, kill anyone who used to have money, right? And they all did that to say, because they sat there and pretending like, well, we need to take out these people because they're the ones in power. It was obviously gaslighting. They were never the ones in power, right? Freaking Mao Zedong was the supreme leader of the country. But what does the left need to sustain itself when they're in power? They need to sustain that idea of the continual revolution, right? The revolution that keeps on going. And so that's why, you know, they started with the violent revolution, which was the Chinese Civil War. And then that's why they call it a cultural revolution, which was violent in itself. But in the same way today, it's the culture war. It was their cultural revolution. They had all the power, but they told people they didn't and used it as an excuse to use their own power just to destroy the last remnants of tradition.
And the Democrats.
And that's what Cenk Uyghur is an example of, point being, right? He claims that he is this anti-establishment person when all the powers that be run his country, right? But he's speaking truth to power because we gaslight ourselves that there's still this revolution going on.
When you say one thing and then you get into office and you change your tune immediately, you go from I'm going to do it on day one to, oh, it can't be done. There's no way it can be done. Oh, you're lucky I didn't bleed out even more while I was in charge.
Sure.
Okay. So, okay, this should be a rule for every online political commentator, okay? I hate it when people compare Biden to like JFK or Lyndon B. Johnson or any of these prior administrations without looking at the majorities that those guys had in their House and Senate. Biden is fighting for his life, okay? Not only literally, okay, this guy's very old, all right? We saw him trip, okay, a few days ago. Biden is literally and metaphorically fighting for his life every single day he gets out and talks to Congress, okay? He is riding the thinnest fucking majorities, okay, historically, that presidents have ever had. And then we're looking at this guy and it's like, really? You've got the vice president as a tiebreaker in the Senate, and you haven't given us single-payer health care yet? You haven't completely dismantled the military-industrial complex? We don't have 15 an hour minimum wage? Where are you doing, Mr. President? Biden is doing everything he can. And that's why I think that as much as it triggers the hell out of some people, I think bipartisanship is an incredibly important step. I think that I'm going to do the progressive thing of like diversity is good for diversity's sake. I think bipartisanship is good for bipartisan's sake because a lot of the issues that we've had running our federal government government over the past 20 years have literally been Congress does nothing, and we look to the president for executive actions. Even our big immigration policy like DACA came from Obama executive action, or we look to the Supreme Court for everything. All of our civil rights, all of our big civil rights legislation, where is that? It doesn't exist. It's come from the Supreme Court. Gay marriage came from the Supreme Court. Roe v. Wade, Casey came from the Supreme Court. And what happens to things that come from the Supreme Court? The next Supreme Court can take them away. What happens to things that come from executive action? The next executive action or the next Supreme Court can take them away. And I think that this hyperfixation on, no, screw bipartisanship, we're just going to fight with our end of the political spectrum. Our end of the political spectrum is barely winning in the Senate, is barely winning, is no longer winning in the House. So one, I think that focusing on some level of bipartisanship, I think in and of itself is a good, because we have to be able to bring people in Congress to work together again. This relying on the Supreme Court, especially now with a fucked 6-3 Supreme Court, and this relying on executive action is not a good way to conduct affairs, because any gain we make can be lost at the snap of a finger. Number one. And number two, I feel like the bipartisan push is credited to Biden.
I will say,
when we look at Democrats,
Destiny understands politics a lot better than Cenk, to his credit. Because obviously we're on different sides, but what he's saying logically makes sense. Whereas Cenk is just like, why is there no...
Trump did when he had all three and then four parts of government. Trump did nothing. He did his big tax cut bill, and that was it. They didn't repeal and replace Obamacare, which I think Republicans have been jerking off about doing for 8 years. Okay, they didn't repeal and replace Obamacare. They didn't make any of the big entitlement cuts they wanted to. They didn't even get their wall funding that they were talking about so much. Trump had to do it via executive action because the president gets wide deference and matters of state security. And they didn't even get the infrastructure bill passed that they said over and over again. Trump said, I could bring people together on infrastructure. He didn't. So the fact that Biden, I understand, especially as a progressive, especially when we want politics to be way further to the left, but that idea of like, well, just because it's bipartisan doesn't mean it's good. I understand wanting to fight against that, but man, when Congress is like so defunct, I think that being able to get anything passed, let alone the massive legislation Biden has gotten passed, I think he gets credit for that. And I think there's credit where credit is due there.
Okay, so first...
Okay, I actually do want to hear this response. It got slightly interesting. Let's see.
Trump actually did the one thing that he and the Republicans cared about, the only thing they care about, which is tax cuts for the rich. So that was 100% mission accomplished. The rest was just, rhetoric. It's like, oh, I'm going to build a wall. He barely even tried until the end, right? So we all know he's a giant liar. We all agree to that, right, et cetera. But the Republicans revealed themselves.
That is a valid criticism, by the way. Not the second part, but the first part. That is true.
What's the major thing that Ronald Reagan did? Giant tax cuts. What's the major thing that George W. Bush did? Giant tax cuts. What's the major thing that Trump did? Giant tax cuts, right?
True.
So they pass the things they want to pass. And every time, oh, golly gee, there was nothing Democrats could do, right? And when they come back in, so here's a great example, Stephen. So Trump and the Republicans butcher the tax rates, and they take corporate taxes from 35% to 21%, okay? Then Biden comes in and goes, I'm going to raise those back up to 28%. And I was like, wait, hold on. They were at 35. What do you mean back up to 28? So, okay, already you agree with the tax cuts for the rich and for corporations. Then Manchin says, no, not 28, 25. And Biden instantly goes, okay, fine, 25. And then they drop it, and it's still at 21.
And there we go. It got boring again.
He never
now
fought
I don't
for
care.
it. B, he never wanted to increase them back to where they were. That's a fact. There's no disputing that. And then C, he just didn't even try and loves them where they are. I say he loves them, and you can say, hey, no. I disagree with you, Cenk. Biden doesn't love that. He's just a pathetic ooze of weakness, and he just can't fight back on any of this stuff. And so now that brings us to the point that you made.
You better watch your mouth, Cenk. He literally beat the crap out of Corn Pop, okay? So I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, Esther, get off that board. And then what did the Corn Pop... Didn't he pull out like a razor blade or something? A straightener, and then they like had a fight, and Joe Biden won. He just Aikida'd Corn Pop out of existence. I haven't heard that in so long. What exactly happened? Corn Pop had like a razor blade, right?
Well, wait a minute. LBJ had big majorities.
Now, Corn Pop was a bad dude.
He had big majorities of Democrats.
And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
But remember, a giant portion of those Democrats were Dixiecrats. And we didn't just rely on the Supreme Court to pass legislation, to pass things that we agree with, policies, right? And it's kind of funny to say the Supreme Court is passing it, but that was the only functioning body we had left, because In my opinion, the donors bought everything else, and that they love the status quo. They ground everything to a halt except tax cuts for the rich. And so, but no, Lyndon Johnson passed the Voting Rights Act, and he passed the Civil Rights Act, and he passed them through Congress, and he passed them despite the fact that a giant percentage of his party were Dixiecrats who ran on segregation, on being racist, and it cost them their careers. But he actually fought. He fought like hell for it. And so did FDR. FDR said, I welcome their hatred, and I'm going to defeat the Republicans' lust for greed. These are super strong words, and he would use words like that all the time, which leads me to my other point, which is, how do you think they got those giant majorities? Remember, FDR took over from a Republican. It's not like it was already a big Democratic majority for him.
But they won pretty big in 1932, Cenk. Okay, you need to get it right here.
No, he took over and built a giant Democratic majority by fighting for us, by getting results like Social Security and so many of the other things that he did after the Depression. And one thing now, back to the current day, you mentioned one thing I want to talk about. You strawmanned a little bit, and maybe you're not strawmanning for other people, but for me, I don't come in and go, oh my God, I want a single payer overnight. No, in fact, if you remember the Jimmy Dore clowns did the force the vote in the beginning, and they're like, we're gonna force the Nancy Pelosi speaker vote thing so we can get a vote on Medicare for all. I'm like, guys, you're not gonna win that. You have no alternative to Nancy Pelosi, and there's no chance Medicare for all passes. So why don't you do something that's actually winnable? All right, let's use your leverage and power.
Let's see if they get to Kyle.
We've got very slim majorities, but we need to get rid of some of these.
Nope, they're still talking about Joe Brandon. Is Biden a good president? Well, I think he's better. I think he's slightly better. I think he's slightly worse. Let's go and have a debate about IRS agents. Freaking nerds. DNGs. Dorks, nerds, geeks. But 62% of the chat wants us to keep watching this. So.
Democrat. We need to get some more progressive Democrats in there. I feel like they'd be in the same position. You know, like you even said, like that force the vote on like Medicare. Like, what's the point? Right? If you don't have the majorities in Congress to get it done, but you don't agree with that, yeah? Would you?
No, I don't agree with that at all. I guarantee you that that if they had a majority of 4, all of a sudden there would be 4 Democrats that were holding out, not just 2, like Manchin and Sinema. They'd all of a sudden it'd be Coons and Carper as well. If they had a majority of 8, all of a sudden it would be 8 Democrats holding out, because I've covered politics for 25 years and I've seen them do it over and over and over again. And so and in fact, Jayapal just gave away the game. Theoretical head of the Progressive Caucus, or the caucus is theoretically
DNG chain in
and she
chat.
said, well, look, we showed them, we voted no. Now, if they needed the votes, we would have given it to them, but we
actually, let's put up that poll.
Voted no to show that
let's end this one.
Well,
who
then
is
you
the
just gave
bigger
away the
DNG?
game, brother, or sister in that case. Okay, so you're just saying, oh, we're just faking it out here. So however many Democratic votes they need to pass these awful bills, we'll always give it to them. But we're going to pretend that we're against this bill because they don't need our votes. That's the kind of gamesmanship that happens. And so, I mean, I guess that's a core disagreement. I don't think that they're godly, honest people that went to Washington and Mr. Smith just couldn't pull it off. No, they all get massive funding from corporate donors, PACs, super PACs, and they do exactly as they're told.
But then if that's the case, then why engage with the political system at all? Because now we're back at the square.
Okay, the poll is now live. Who is the bigger DNG? We have Cenk and we have Destiny. Okay, go vote in the live chat, guys.
Team Hope. Okay, so that's why I helped to form Justice Democrats, because my thesis was, if you untether people from corporate PAC money, they could actually be honest. And that's why, like, is it random that AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar were the most visible Democrats when they first got elected? And then Jamal Bowman, Cory Bush, these are all big names you've heard over and over again.
Yeah, but they're winning in plus 40, but they're winning in plus 40 blue districts, right? This is why when the progressives were talking about like, well, we're going to get a progressive in from Manchin, they got slaughtered. That's why people like Nina Turner, even when they fundraise their opponent, 2-1.
Okay, 57% are saying Destiny is the bigger DNG.
Progressives that are winning in
I think I'd have to agree.
And then attacking the rest of the Democratic
he is a little more. Now, I think ideologically, he's less radical than Cenk. But Cenk, I don't know. He just Cenk clearly has more more testosterone. So I think I tend to agree. I think I agree with those poll results.
They always turn impossible to inevitable, right? It was always going to happen. No, it wasn't. There was massive victories in there. Okay, and so, but the reason that they fought loudly and strongly for their voters.
Also, Cenk, to my knowledge, does not let his wife openly cheat on him. So, just a thought.
Don't do class warfare. Whoa, don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. That's why the corporate Democrats are always hiding. They're hiding in a cave. So, yes, no, there's something you could do. You vote in primaries first, because one, you got to get the corrupt Democrats out, because they're just going to vote with the Republicans anyway on economic issues. But number two, you actually need, when they get into office, for them to vote the right way, and
progressives
to be
always lose because they suck
from the corruption. And I'll give you an ironic
even your
example.
party doesn't want to vote for them.
Terrible guy was on the show. We yelled at him. We yelled back and forth. Got no love for him, right? But he decided not to take corporate PAC money, and then lo and behold, he was the one Republican that proposed an anti-corruption bill. You got to get him out of the minute you detach them from the donors, they become honest, and they might be honestly awful like Matt Gaetz. They might be honestly wonderful like some of the Justice Democrats, but all of a sudden you get your democracy back a little bit. And so if you don't get money out of politics, then yes, in the long term it's hopeless. But we must get money out of politics.
Okay, I mean, like I feel.
I somewhat agree, but the thing is, I don't think money in politics is what is stopping a lot of your progressive candidates, Cenk. I think it's just that en masse, the Democratic constituency actually does not want super radical people. Prime example of this might be the New York City mayoral election of 2021, right? You look at that and you would expect, well, they're going to vote for the furthest left candidate. And who did they instead vote for? Now, Eric Adams as mayor has been Bill de Blasio 2.0, so we understand that, you know, he was always a wolf in sheep's clothing. But let's remember, in that primary, Eric Adams was the most conservative Democrat. He actually went out there and said law and order, and we're going to actually fund the police and all this stuff. And then he actually won by a huge margin in the Democratic primary, right? So it does go to show you that, you know, a lot of Democratic voters out there, yes, I think both liberals and conservatives to a degree are kind of fed up with our parties. But what liberals, and you could kind of visualize this because America is historically considered a center-right country, right? Most Democrats, liberals at the time, sort of feel that their party is too radical, so they want more moderate candidates. And most Republicans feel like their party is not conservative enough. And when you understand, right, we are a center-right, quote-unquote, country, and that's historically what we've been kind of seen as, and you can kind of understand it when you look at our Overton window and the way it exists, right? Conservatives typically feel like we're not right-wing enough, and then because that Overton window tips slightly to the right, at least in comparison to some parts of the world, the liberals generally think we're a little bit too, they want to move a little bit more to the center, right? And this has been the case for a long time now. Like the past few decades, it's been exactly like this. But this is to say that your progressive candidates would not win if they just had more exposure. No, if they had more exposure, actually, their ridiculousness would, outside of maybe AOC's district, their ridiculousness would turn people off. You know,
I like the more important thing would be flipping Republican votes to Democrat and then fighting from there rather than trying to flip Dem to blue or Dem. But I think we disagree on that. We could go back and forth on that.
You get to spend time with your baby when you deliver. I can go on and on. You go populist and you could win so many more of those seats rather than the fake moderates that are just.
But I mean, the reality is Manchin voted with Biden's agenda.
But the thing is, Cenk, it's not populist to go out there and say, we want to radically cut off everyone's genitals. That's not populist, quote unquote. It's not populist to go out there and say, we're going to totally like nationalize and make every single industry public or whatever. Most people don't want that. What would be populist is to go out there and say certain things that a lot of normal Americans who aren't super political would agree with. And to some degree, yes, the Democrats occasionally do a good job when it comes to healthcare or Social Security or whatever. But the things you are suggesting, that's not populist, and that would not win over the people. Saying, you know, let's have sex changes at the age of 2 years old. That's not going to win over the people. But that's the liberal progressives' idea of populist, and it's not, and it won't win. It doesn't win.
8% of the time, right? Like he didn't vote for
what, on post offices?
It's better than having a Republican in there. I mean, how many of the Republicans are voting on Biden's agenda 88% of the time, right? That's what I'm saying. If another Democrat can win in West Virginia, then go for it. My understanding is the last time somebody tried to primary Manchin, the guy got like 30% of the vote, I think.
It's true. You're not going to get rid of Manchin.
It's actually, left, I think it was worse than that. So it was Paula Jean Swearengin. And
it's not populist to radically increase taxes. Good point. It's not populist to give more funding to the IRS either. It's not populist to give 80 billion. That's something else. I meant to say it's not populist to give 80,000 new agents to the IRS. No one in America supports that. Let's do an opinion poll right now. Do you support 80,000 new agents for the IRS that are going to audit you? Okay, let's see how that goes, Cenk Yogurt. We need to expand the IRS!
She's a good person, but...
All right, we're going to end at 10 p.m. So at 10 p.m., we're going to stop reacting to this debate and go on. We have other stuff to talk about, so don't go anywhere. But this is getting excruciating. Unless you guys really want us to continue. Viewership is starting to drop, which I feel like to me means that we're getting bored here. But let's see.
Not the greatest candidate.
Sure.
You know, and so, look, if you need someone who's a quality candidate, yes. But honestly, the hardest thing in the world is to get past the mainstream media, because they'll just smear you to death. And so they do it to all the progressives. And so, but I would argue, and now we're going to get too far down this rabbit hole and we have very little time left, but I'll just say, I think Manchin in a lot of ways does more damage. Very little time left.
They were supposed to debate like 3 things. They've just been talking about Biden all night. What a dud. All right, let's go live. Let's see what they're talking about right now.
And yeah, so Stephen, it's a balancing act. I don't want people to misinterpret my passion for being impractical. No, you got to get things done. And so if you're just doing it for rhetoric or for release or something like that, that's not at all helpful. 3 more minutes. You have to, the outrage should bring a spotlight with it. And then you shine that spotlight on the issue where you have winning ground. That's why I talk about paid family leave being at 84%. It's winning ground for us. If we wanted to fight on that, we can win on that, right? But if you say, hey, listen, we need to get a Supreme Court justice passed, so I need to make X, Y, and Z compromise with Manchin or Sinema. Well, look, in that case, I could live with it. It depends. It depends on what are we compromising on? What's the policy? What's the position? What are we going for? So it's not just a blanket statement of, okay, get rid of them or don't get rid of them.
Okay. Oh man, we had 2 other huge topics here. We can do this for a couple minutes. I'm curious.
All right, let's hear this. Let's hear this.
This was like a major litmus test, I think, for a lot of like media coverage was like the Rittenhouse stuff.
Okay, they're going to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse right now. So, you know, it took them a whole hour to get to the point, but I think this is interesting. Let's actually listen to this. Okay. Let's see what they have to say.
Do you still stand by? Do you feel like? I feel like when I watched the Young Turks and a lot of other people, there were a lot of insane statements coming out about how like conservatives love to kill people. Conservatives are always looking to kill people. They can't wait to kill. They're constantly looking to kill people, get away from it. Like, do you think that like this type of rhetoric or this discussion around what were like largely violent riots that were largely spurred, I think, by like bad media coverage of the original Kenosha shooting of oh God, what was the name of the guy?
Base Destiny, let's go.
They got shot in the back 7 times. Yeah. It like the whole Rittenhouse saga to me was Jacob Blake gets shot, and there's bad coverage in the media about it, making it seem like he was just an innocent guy getting in the car to drive away.
Destiny, let's go.
And then riots happen in Kenosha. They get
Destiny
bad media coverage. You've got the CNN,
let's go.
The infamous CNN coverage of, you know, fiery protests, but mostly peaceful in the background. Then you've got Rittenhouse, you know, does his thing, and then we get more bad coverage of that. In my opinion, I think a lot of the facts get misrepresented there in a lot of left-leaning media.
True.
And it just feels like we're on this never-ending train of stoking the fires of resentment, hatred, on top of misinformation and bad claims. And then at the end of the day, we all walk away feeling like we've done something good when we're just like kind of like preaching basically misinformation to the audience and everything.
Okay, before Cenk's response, let me say, Rare Destiny W. He actually is completely right about it. Now, I will say maybe we shouldn't give him too much credit because anyone, like, I don't care where your political affiliations are, although liberals probably are just that stupid. But if you see an image, fiery but mostly peaceful protest, you know, that's stupid, okay? Jacob Blake clearly grabbed for a knife, but all the race baiters, Tariq Nasheed, all the black supremacists had to go out there and say he was innocent. Yeah, he was reaching for a knife, but he was still innocent. Why do you have to shoot him 7 times? Because they apparently don't know how guns work. Yeah, just shoot him once. That'll work. That'll restrain a suspect. That's how guns work, you know. And then the Kyle Rittenhouse case, very clear case of self-defense, which is the only reason he got acquitted. Because let's be honest, if the line were at all slightly gray, he'd be in jail for life. Because we know how the political side of it leans, you know. But yeah, let's listen to what Cenk has to say about this. I'm curious.
Yeah. So no, I don't back away from anything I said. But again, I'm not a standard leftist, right? So
yeah, you are. You are as generic as they come.
Right? You're not a standard anything, right? So for example, you support Democrat and what I would call the establishment Democrats, but you have this Rittenhouse opinion, which is a little out of left field, right? Or maybe right field. And so like I said in the beginning, I respect you for that. That's genuine.
That's a cop out. Cenk, that's an obvious cop out. No, respond to what he said, okay? You're just coping because Destiny actually has the facts right for once. And now you're like, we're just a difference of opinion.
Unique, etc.
Cop
right?
out.
So on Rittenhouse,
all right, here we go.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason to go with a weapon to that protest or riot. Like if you're right and it's a terrible riot, and in a lot of ways that it was. So I wouldn't have put up the chyron saying peaceful protest as the fires are going on in the back. No, of course there was some fires, there was vandalism, there was danger. There's no question about that, right? You can't deny reality. Now,
yeah, well, genius. You know why he was there? He was there because local businesses called him to be there. Why did local businesses call him to be there? Because you've seen the videos. They were literally burning stuff down. Okay, so some of the businesses who had vandalism the last night were like, hey, can you come out and help? And that's why Kyle Rittenhouse was there. And you say there's no reason to stand there with a weapon. I suppose I would agree if the police actually did their job, but because you guys control the mob and you guys basically control the state in many ways, all the police did is sat there and did nothing, right? They just sat there and did nothing. They let all of Kenosha burn. You made excuses for it. You made excuses for the violent protests, but suddenly you're so baffled as to why some ordinary citizen said, I want to go and protect other people's property, right? You stand around there simultaneously and say, yes, it was, burn down everyone's business, and then claim to be for the working class, right? You claim, oh, we care so much about the working and middle class families in this country, but you were perfectly okay with a bunch of, delinquents burning down all of their property. And then now you're going to come around and say, well, why was he there with a gun to begin with? That's not the proper question, actually. The proper question should be, why weren't the police there? Oh, the police weren't there because of you. So, and of your crowd of people. So, it's no surprise. It's a stupid question. And by the way, it's legal too. What Kyle Rittenhouse's presence there was legal. People say, across state lines. No, it was all totally legal. Hence why he never got charged with anything, right? Like we understand, they would have gone after him for anything. But, that's the reason why.
Why would I grab a weapon and go in the middle of that? It doesn't make any sense. It's not even his community.
So why would I go and do the right thing? Typical, like I know it's very generic, but typical libtard, unironically. Why would I go and do the right thing? But the government would do it for me, even though the government doesn't do it for me. And by the way, even on this front, okay, maybe you don't think Kyle should have been there. Doesn't matter. This is a matter of whether he broke the law and he murdered someone. That is objectively, verifiably false. So what even is your defense? We can debate, I don't think so-and-so should have been there. But just because you personally think someone should not have been in a certain particular situation, but they committed no crime, so you think it's perfectly okay to charge them with a crime and put them in jail for like 10 plus years? Explain how that even makes sense. What a brain dead take. All right, let's listen to the rest of this.
It was his community, but like the obvious...
Thank you, Destiny. Rare Destiny W. Okay? He gained plus, the GTA, he's failed all the missions, but he's gained 100 respect for this. Okay? He finally passed. cue the San Andreas theme song.
Comparison would be like the rooftop Koreans during like the Rodney King riots in
Shout
LA.
out, thank
like, do you
let's
think
go.
that does anybody in the United States have any sort of moral right to defend communities that feel attached to, or do you think that's just something
no, Stephen. So I think those are two very, very different things.
How
you
are they
got a
any
store,
different?
You worked your ass off for it. My dad's an immigrant. He worked his ass off. He built his own business brick by brick. And you want to protect that. I hear you, brothers and sisters.
Kyle Rittenhouse was there to protect businesses, genius. He was there because business owners in Kenosha asked him to come out. He wasn't just standing there with a gun trying to shoot people, idiot. But I'll tell you the difference. You know the difference in Cenk Uyghur's eyes? It's that in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the guy defending the businesses was white, whereas in LA, the rooftop Koreans, they were not white. That's the difference. That's why Cenk sees Kyle as the bad guy and the rooftop Koreans as good. That's the only difference between them, okay? Oh, he didn't own the business? Yeah, but he was asked by other business owners. That's why he was there. So no, that's not true.
Okay, I got you. And these days there's a lot of crime. You want to protect your
And by the way, you don't got them. I think if a similar situation happened, if it were actually the white business owner who shot, you'd still be saying he shouldn't have shot them. Okay, I mean, let's be honest.
Absolutely, I get it. Okay, but he didn't live there. I mean, they crossed state lines.
He
I don't
was,
know if it's,
By
just
like
real quick, because I lived in
20 minutes.
Nebraska. He crossed it. It was a 15-minute drive.
Yeah.
He lived like 15 minutes away. And when you live in, I lived in Omaha. There's a lot of towns that you drive out to that you're like part of those communities. A lot of people in Council Bluffs go to.
Why?
Because
Why go there?
Well, why? I mean, like people.
Because it's the right thing to do, you absolutely unvirtuous swine. Okay, like what do you mean? Why go there? A, again, because people asked them to, but also B, I don't know. Maybe when law and order totally breaks down, you know, there are some among us who, I mean, if I were to be totally honest, I would not do what Kyle Rittenhouse did. Not because it's not the right thing to do, just because I am like, shoot, they're going to throw me in jail because that's what this country is. If you do the right thing, if you stand up for yourself, if you defend yourself, they throw you in jail. But, you know, props to Kyle. He did do something virtuous. He stood up for what was right. And that's really all there is to it. Because law and order had broken down. A bunch of violent communist S-heads were, you know, destroying everything and destroying entire people's lives. And some young kid out there said, I want to be the hero. I want to save some people's stuff. It's incredibly virtuous. Why be there? Cope. Absolute cope. Maybe because it's actually your community. If you live 15 minutes from it, it's basically your community. Okay, don't be stupid.
People don't talk about it, but like the day before the Rittenhouse thing happened, there was that older guy, Robert Cobb. His business had literally been burned to the ground. It was being arsoned, and I think he was running around with a fire extinguisher trying to put it out.
Correct. And what was Rittenhouse going to do? Was he going to sit there and shoot everybody that came by?
He shot.
No, it's called a deterrent. You how freaking stupid is this guy? Okay, idiot. Listen, fool. Okay, when police or National Guard actually do their jobs, do they go shoot all the rioters? No, they stand there with the M16s and they just, okay, let's not mess with it. It's called a deterrent. Are you that's not hard to understand, dude.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Even Destiny's like, what are you talking about, fool? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Which it is. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
But that's my point. He went there.
And by the way, let's not forget. Are we going to forget Kyle Rittenhouse? What was he doing earlier in the night? He was literally like giving out first aid and he was giving out like resources and stuff. And I think he was trying to fight fires from my recollection. Actually, wasn't that what it was? From what I remember, right, they started chasing him because he was trying to put out one of the fires that the Antifa people started. Am I misremembering that? Anyone want to fact check me? I'm pretty sure that's the reason why. So that's what he was there to do. Actually, as a matter of fact, that's what he was there to do. The gun was for self-defense, right? Because obviously there's crazy people, but he was there mainly to protect the businesses, put out fires, help people. But he carried it in self-defense, and then now you're mad at him for doing that.
To go shoot. In my opinion, he went there not specifically like in my mind premeditated. I'm going to go and murder some people on the left, and I'm going to feel great. No,
sure, but
right?
like, but
I'm
then
going
when
to
you
go
look
with
at
a weapon, and if there's any kind of provocation, whoa, I might get to use it.
Yeah, but I mean, we can say that.
That's called being smart and using self-defense. I mean, what do you mean? This guy's so stupid. I virtually guarantee you that the Young Turks building has armed security. I mean, I would take a wild guess. I'll take a wild guess there. So what's the concept there, genius? I mean, it's just bad faith. Like, I know he's not the smartest, but you genuinely, like, there's no way someone can be so stupid that is serious about politics and believes any of this. Like, it doesn't even make sense, okay? You have armed security at your building, okay? Armed security, A, are not police. B, they stand there with guns, not because they're going to go shoot everyone. It's called a deterrent, and then if anything happens, yes, you have it for self-defense. What are you suggesting he do? Go and put out all the fires, you know, just being unarmed? Well, you know what would have happened? They literally would have killed him. Because one of the guys he shot literally pointed a gun at him. So what are you talking about?
But when you look at the evidence,
Idiot.
There's just
DNG. Total DNG.
evidence. There's nothing that supports that.
No, that's 100%. Look, he goes there with a weapon. He goes to provoke. Then why did he shoot the first guy?
He shot the first guy because the first guy was chasing him in a parking lot. He'd already made threats earlier. That's on camera.
Correct.
And he was lunging for Rittenhouse's rifle after a guy behind him had fired a shot with his pistol after Rittenhouse turned around to see where the noise was coming from.
So, but Stephen, I think that you're proving.
See, the Cenk is like, oh, well, yeah, I can't dispute the facts, so I'm just gonna. All right, oh my gosh. Rare Destiny W, by the way. Props to Destiny. I appreciate this. Okay, you know, you gained some respect for me today. You still have blue hair, but you gained some respect today.
Proving my point, which is
I don't think so at all. I think it was. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me explain.
Go ahead.
So you go into this dangerous, what you think is a dangerous situation. You go in there with a weapon. Then you hear a shot.
The police
That's true. There was a shot. He heard it. He didn't see where the shot was coming from. He just turned around and shot the guy.
He turned around and shot a guy that was lunging.
Reckless.
It wasn't reckless. It wasn't reckless at all because he only shot the guy that was lunging for him, trying to grab his rifle. This is indisputable on video. The guy was chasing him down. He turned around. He was lunging.
Can I come to your house? Can I come to your house with a weapon, and then if you grab for it, I get to shoot you?
Yes. First of all, it's not even in your house. So like this is in public, so it's a little bit different. Self-defense, a little bit property rights, all that. But yes. Now these two know each other, so maybe it's a joke or whatever. It's a prank. I'm Mizzy or something. But yes, if a random stranger in public, if you have a gun, you carry whatever. If they reach for your gun, what are you going to assume they're trying to do? They're trying to take your gun and presumably shoot you with it. What a stupid question. Of course, Cenk. Actually, yes, that is exactly what you should do in that situation. If somebody reaches for your gun, yes. And hey, genius, hey, McFly, hello. What do you, okay, so let's say Kyle Rittenhouse lets him grab his gun. What does he think is going to happen? Okay, haha, I have your gun now, haha, funny. No, idiot. No, tard. Okay, listen. He's gonna shoot you with it. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Probably, yeah.
My
if you
goodness.
were in my house,
crazy.
No, hold on. Wait.
Crazy?
If you come to
No, I don't think it's crazy that if you reach for someone's gun knowingly, that person probably is gonna think you're trying to kill them and will shoot you with their gun if they can. That's actually one of the most sane things I've ever heard.
my house and you have a weapon on you and we get into an altercation, I'm going to grab that gun from you? Of course you have a right to defend yourself, especially if I was twice your size.
Go with a weapon in the first place. What
You
am I
should,
doing
well,
there?
hold on. You shouldn't be in my house with a weapon because I'm on private property. The city of Kenosha was not private property. Rittenhouse had just as much a right to be there as any other protester did.
Correct.
So listen, I'll give you an analogy. January 6th. I'm very upset about it. I don't like what happened there at all. I think they were trying to undermine our democracy. If I went in there with an AR-15 or any kind of weapon and I looked for a threat, I'd definitely find one, and then I'd get to kill everybody that I thought was a threat. I mean,
Okay, a couple differences. First of all, you can't carry the gun like that in DC. Okay, that's number one. But number two, the answer technically would be yes. Yes, if you were there as a leftist on January 6th, just hypothetically, with an AR-15 legally, and some Trump supporter reaches for your AR-15 and tries to grab it from you, yeah, I'm pretty sure in that case, too, the courts would also say, well, he acted in self-defense. The guy grabbed his gun. Yes. Like, what do you even... It doesn't make any sense. And you notice the whole argument here boils down to, okay, you're right. He didn't actually break the law. He was there illegally. He defended himself. What he did was within self-defense. But I personally don't think he should have been there. Therefore, the guy should do 20 plus years in jail and have been convicted of murder. Do you realize how insane that is? All of this is you personally disagree with his decision that you don't think maybe he should have been there. Okay, fine. I mean, I suppose that's a fair discussion to have. But that doesn't change whether or not the guy is guilty of murder. Do you notice that? He literally just says, just because I disagree with your decision that nothing was criminal, I think you should be charged for murder. And that's criminal justice reform for you, the progressives.
That guy you say is lunging for his weapon. From what I saw, that guy's trouble. I get it. He was troubled, I should say. The first guy who got killed, right? And so he goes, maybe he went looking for trouble too. I don't know, right? But he threw a plastic bag that had plastic bottles in it.
Wait. The plastic bag had... Rittenhouse didn't even see the plastic bag. The issue was... No, but the issue is Rittenhouse...
Okay, so you want to talk about who's causing trouble, all right? So you have Kyle Rittenhouse, who showed up to defend the businesses, but you're defending the guy. You're saying that, oh, he was asking for it. But the guy who chased down someone who he knew had a gun, you chase down a guy with a gun and start grabbing for his gun. That's not asking for it. That's not there to cause trouble. This is so stupid. This is the most brain dead thing. Oh my goodness.
Running away. This guy was chasing him.
Correct.
And when Rittenhouse turned around with an assault rifle, the guy went to grab the rifle from him.
Yes, that's what happened.
No,
that's a pretty clear cut.
Stephen, if we follow, and then he got hit with then he shoots and kills someone.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's running through the crowd. He's made the situation 10,000 times more.
He's not making this. He's running away.
Yeah, he's running away. That's the other thing, right? Yes, because once Kyle neutralized the immediate threats. Okay, let's go by your logic. If Kyle were there to provoke and just kill people and wanted an excuse to kill people, then he would have gotten up, stood there, and be like, "Who wants some next?" And used it as an excuse to kill as many people as possible. But Kyle actually ran away because he was trying to avoid that situation. So here, Cenk is getting destroyed. We love to see it though. We love to see it.
He's running to the cops and turned himself in, which is exactly what he should be.
The crowd is everywhere. The crowd is everywhere. He's running through the crowd, and then somebody sees that he shot someone, and they go after him with a skateboard, which I wouldn't have done, right? But now he shoots him.
And that was not asking for trouble. So trying to hit a guy in the head with a skateboard is not asking for trouble.
Kills the guy with a skateboard.
Yeah, because the guy's trying to assault.
He shoots a guy with this. Oh wow, how dare he? First of all, okay, hey, this is so stupid. This is the average gun control supporter, by the way. Like they're totally clueless. Okay, so a skateboard is a blunt object. If you're using it as melee, whatever, like it could be considered a weapon. And if you're trying to hit someone in the head with it, that very well can crack their skull, knock them unconscious, whatever it is. If you come to someone with a blunt object trying to hit them in the head, I mean, yeah, actually, you can cause harm, okay? And on top of that, what else I would point out, it's worse because Kyle is holding a gun, okay? So Kyle also has to presume, hey, if this guy knocks me unconscious, which you shouldn't just sit there and take, because also you hit someone in the head, fatal brain injury, that could kill you, just for the record, it is possible. But even if that doesn't happen, oh, I'm just disoriented, I pass out, knocked out, whatever it is, concussion. Now I'm lying there with an AR-15. Okay, so what can the guy attacking me do? He can pick up the AR and shoot me and kill me while I'm unconscious or disoriented, whatever. Are you freaking for real? What an idiot. It's just so dumb.
With a skateboard, if you had a bat, we'd say the same thing.
Steven, yeah. Okay, look, couple things.
You're right. The Pigeon Slayer says maybe Cenk's thick skull could take a skateboard, but he needs to consider the rest of us. That is true. And dollar for $2 says, behold, a featherless biped. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. And if you guys want to super chat the show, obviously I'll read them after this.
Different. Everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
So I get it. some people will be scared, and if you get
Some
hit with a
people would be
skateboard,
scared.
you think, all right, I'm going to murder that guy.
Anyone with common sense would be, because that's a blunt object. Skateboards are, I mean, you act like it's a piece of paper, okay? Skateboards are pretty heavy, right? They're not super heavy, but if you swing it at full force, you could definitely knock someone out and hurt their brain, whatever it is. Furthermore, he has a gun. Also, you think about something happening that fast. Can we not be idiots about this? It's dark. It's nighttime. The whole thing is happening in the span of seconds. Your adrenaline is going. All you see is someone swinging something at you. Let's be real about that. Like, what do you expect? Maybe that's why you don't swing for a person with a gun. But you're going to make excuses for that. Go up to someone with an AR-15 and start trying to fight them. Yeah, that's very smart, Cenk.
For me,
unbelievable.
I get hit with a skateboard.
Unbelievable.
I don't shoot the other guy.
Cenk, if somebody hits you with a skateboard in the face, there's like a 20% chance that you die. A skateboard?
Okay,
Skateboards
I'll
are a big thing.
chance.
Okay.
I'll take the chance. Cenk Uyghur says, I will take the chance of dying, if not by skateboard, by the gun. Oh my goodness. Well, this guy is such an idiot.
That's great that you would, but I wouldn't compel a 17-year-old to take that chance in the middle of the mud. Especially what the people that beat that one dude within an inch of his life, Robert Cobb, the day before, that everybody that went to this protest, they'd all seen videos of that. That's why people went to the riots the second day. That guy got beat to an inch of his life with bare fists.
Correct.
Steven, if you say, hey, listen, I see an altercation on the subway, the bus, the street, and I'm going to go protect not even a family member, but a random woman walking by, working class person, and they're getting picked on, and I happen to see it, and you jump in, I got you.
Who do you think owns the businesses? You say, oh, if I saw an ordinary working person in trouble, I would go and step in. But driving 15 minutes within your own community to do the exact same thing, in this case, protect the livelihoods and the businesses of working class people, he has a problem with that. This is totally incoherent. It makes absolutely no sense here. And he defends the rooftop Koreans, by the way, too, earlier. It really just boils down to Kyle Rittenhouse was white, he was a conservative, therefore I think he should be in jail for life. That's literally what you believe, Cenk. Your logic makes no sense here.
I got you, okay?
Just say it, just admit it.
Right? But
Idiot.
You make an active decision to drive into what you think is a riot and a dangerous situation with a weapon. And then you get freaked out by the plastic bag and a shot you didn't see and a skateboard, and you kill 2 people.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever
That's on you,
heard.
brother. You never should have gone there in the first place. You were looking for trouble, and then you found it, and then you cry like you're a victim? Oh, hell no. Steven,
no one is saying he's a victim. We're saying he shouldn't be in jail.
problem here, sorry, one more thing.
Go for it.
The problem here is that if we follow your way of thinking about it, and you tell me otherwise, of course, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think if we follow that way of thinking, then everybody's going to grab a weapon. They're all going to be in the streets. And the minute anybody looks kind of funny at you or throws a bag or you hear something that's loud or there's a guy with a skateboard, boom, 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 we're shooting each other to no end. That's why stand your ground is a disaster. And wherever they pass stand your ground laws, you have more homicides every time.
It wasn't even stand your ground, Cenk. I mean, even in, at least by the book law, even in like California, because I grew up there, I kind of know the law. Now, yeah, you might, in George Gascon's Los Angeles, who knows? But by the definition of that, swinging a skateboard, that's a blunt object that can kill. Swinging it right at your head is more than grounds for being... The big thing is you have to be in fear for your life. And then you say you're against stand your ground, right? Because you support duty to retreat. That's the opposite, which is where your first duty... Stand your ground says, if you're in that situation, you do not have to retreat. You can shoot back. Okay, so you want to say stand your ground, duty to retreat. What did Kyle Rittenhouse do? He literally retreated. Remember the video? He's literally running away. This guy's chasing him, so he's trying to retreat. He's fulfilling your thing, which is duty to retreat, because you don't like stand your ground. He's fulfilling your thing. He trips and falls. The guy's swinging at him, and then he shoots. By the book of the law, not saying that your stupid, corrupt politicians wouldn't do otherwise. By the book of your law, what Kyle Rittenhouse did is even legal in, like, California, okay? That's not an instance of stand your ground. He literally was trying to run away. That's retreating. That's not standing his ground.
So if you have videos coming out of people who are losing their businesses, who are getting beaten by people on the street who are rioting in a city, the next day people are going to show up to defend that town. Like, we live in the United States, whether we like guns or we don't. That's the reality of it. Rittenhouse had more of a right to be there than any of the rioters that were there after dark, that were setting things on fire, that were causing. He had just as much as right to be there, if not more than any other person. And the United States, you are allowed to carry a weapon on you as well. The idea that he was shooting Rosenbaum because he threw a bag at him, that's just not true. We can watch the videos a million times. Rosenbaum was already getting violent before in the night. There is no video of Rittenhouse provoking anybody ever. There is video of Rosenbaum talking to people, using the N-word, saying, I'm gonna fuck somebody up. He was the one that was chasing Rittenhouse for like 20 meters through a car park before he Rittenhouse finally turned and shot him. And then the other guy was charging with a skateboard to hit him. Grossgord's charging with a pistol to shoot and kill him, and he got shot. His arm got shot. I don't see the wild chain of events where it's like, oh my God, since Rittenhouse was allowed to shoot a guy that was charging him for 20 meters and trying to grab his rifle, and then he shot another guy that went to attack him with a skateboard. Like, yeah, I mean, in the United States, with a guy with an AR-15, that's about what I would expect to happen. And I mean, we're a year or two later. It's not like there's been a deluge of shootings of innocent skaters now by young boys with AR-15. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like the landscape changed very much.
No. So, Stephen, look, there's a couple of things here. So, number one,
let's hear the cope. All right, let's see.
The jury gets to decide whatever they decide. And so, if they decided, hey, you know what, that was enough of a self-defense, okay, that's what the jury decided. So, I'm telling you my perspective on it. And I get that you would have
Cenk Uyghur's perspective is he would have thrown this kid in jail despite breaking no laws, just because I don't think you should have been there. That's his perspective.
You get away with it if it's a skateboard and you felt, oh my God, the skateboard's a little dangerous. And the guy lunging at me, you know how many guys have lunged at me in my life? If I'd have killed all of them, I'd have killed like 20, 40 guys, okay? So there's the, hey, should he be guilty? That's up to the jury. There's, should he have done that? And I think that's crazy that he went there. He definitely should not have done that. And then, so I'm gonna ask you, so do you think that 10 guys, 100 guys, I don't know, 200 guys with weapons should have gone to January 6th, left-wingers?
That's
said,
illegal in DC, so it's a
we're
stupid
here
question.
to protect the peace. I mean, this isn't just our community, this is our nation. And it looks like you guys are here to do a coup. We're here, okay? There's 85 of us with AR-15s. What do you think would have happened?
That's illegal in DC.
I mean, I don't know how many people there had weapons. It's based on what was the name of the crazy Proud Boys or whatever? It sounds like there might have been more guns than that already on the premises.
No, but there was only guns on one side. If there was guns on both sides, what do you think would have happened on January 6th?
I mean, there were police officers there with firearms that showed up, right? It's not like there was a mass shootout.
The police officers let right-wingers do anything they want. They let them.
No.
Really? Because it wasn't like they were burning down all of Kenosha, right? So the police officers there supposedly were doing their job. You're an idiot.
They absolutely
If those guys were black, they would have gotten slaughtered. If those guys were Muslims, it would have been
if that's true, then we would have seen thousands or tens of thousands of black people killed during the BLM riots, but that didn't happen, right? I don't think black.
Wait, did they bum rush the Capitol? Did they threaten to murder Mike Pence? And
no, but they burned down police stations, cars, state house.
They tried to bum rush the Portland courthouse. We played that on the stream before.
Houses, we saw in Kenosha. Not that many. There were millions of people protesting. For your statement that police officers are looking to indiscriminately kill black people, no.
Do we need to cue the video? Okay, just go on my channel. Go on my channel, it's called, what's the video called? It's very recent. We did it like last week. There are receipts of this, okay? I'm not gonna play them. Most of us have seen them. It's called Leftists Want These Videos Silenced. It'll be 8 or 9 days ago, depending when you're watching this, okay? So if you need the receipts, it's on my channel. It's called Leftists Want These Videos Silenced. You can see for yourself. Cenk is just intentionally misleading.
I did not say that.
Well,
I did not say that.
In one of your videos,
wouldn't be indiscriminate.
Well, hold on. In one of your videos, you said that if you walked up to a car with a rifle as a black person, you would get immediately killed. And you're making it sound like if black people would have shown up for January 6th, they would have gotten killed. I mean, there was a lot of
The January 6 people did not try to burn down the Capitol, for the record, whereas the Portland courthouse, they did try to burn it down. Literally, again, you want the receipts, watch my video on it. And they tried to burn it down while federal agents were inside. So they tried to actually, burn it down with people inside.
Writing for the BLM stuff.
That's I don't know if it's a federal or a state building, but that's a government building.
Not like that many people got killed by the cops. So I think that the idea that cops just looking to kill black people or black people are going to get killed for rioting more than white people, I think we would have saw a lot more death during the BLM riots if that was the case.
Face destiny.
Yeah, let's not put words in each other's mouths, me included, right? So I hear you, but I'm not saying indiscriminately. I'm not saying cops are looking to kill black people. I'm just saying if thousands of black people or Muslim people were bum rushing cops who were trying to protect powerful people like our Congress people, tons of them would have gotten shot. And we could disagree on that. That's okay. You think, no, the cops will just let them walk in like they did with the white right-wingers? Maybe, but I doubt it. Okay, but you didn't answer the core question. If a whole bunch of left-wingers had gone there with weapons, do you think that would have been a good idea?
No, I generally, from all the data I've seen, the more guns in an area, usually the more fucked up shit is going to be always. Like,
okay, great.
That's just statistically. But that's up against our Second Amendment rights as Americans, right? I would almost always compel people to, but I mean, I'm also wealthy. I would compel people to leave your property if you want. When I was poor in college, I probably would have killed somebody if they tried to steal my shit, if I had the opportunity to see it, because that's your lifetime's worth of shit that you put into buying stuff that you have. So, you know, like if black people.
No, they have insurance. They have insurance. The same insurance companies that Cenk claims are very corrupt and capitalistic. They have insurance.
People had the ability to defend themselves during the Tulsa race riots, during the Black Wall Street being burned down, for the Koreans that defended their communities, for the Black Panthers in California that felt the need to defend their communities with rifles. I mean, if minority communities or if any community wants to take up arms and defend their community, in the United States, you have the right to do that. And if I was going to come down on any side in a conflict there where people start getting killed, I would always come down on the rioters first. For Kenosha,
I'm gonna be totally honest. You guys know how I feel about the policing system in this country. I would honestly prefer, like, what if we just all, every neighborhood has its own little mafia, and you know, we'll agree you pick and choose the neighborhood you want to live in, and then we'll just kind of like patrol. And there can be police, but you know, they won't really be police, right? They kind of just be there, extreme situations. But besides that would be real community policing, right? I'm not saying that's my ideal situation, but I'd honestly prefer that to the world of now, where if you try to defend yourself, you're the one who gets thrown in jail. But that would never happen because Cenk Uyghur.
The people that were primarily at fault were the people that were there after dark that were setting shit on fire. Those are the people who have the primary responsibility for everything that happened. As much as we talk about showing up to a riot with a gun and how irresponsible it is, Grosskreutz, the guy that got his bicep shut off, he showed up with a gun. He almost used it on Rittenhouse, right? So I mean,
literally have the gun right here.
By the way, two things about that. Number one, he didn't. So apparently you could show restraint, even though he got shot.
No, okay. The reason he did not shoot Kyle Rittenhouse is because he had, I think it was a Glock, whatever. He had a pistol right here, right? Kyle shot him in the arm. He literally aimed it. If you look at he literally aimed it at Kyle Rittenhouse, shot him in the arm, and then his arm went like dead, right? He couldn't move. He couldn't move his arm, so it was locked. If you look at the video. So no, it wasn't restraint. He literally was going to shoot him.
Number two, he shouldn't have shown up with a gun either. Here, look, my last thing on this is, I'll give you the most extreme example. So you remember Charlottesville, of course, the Nazis chant, the Jews will not replace us. Now, would anybody begrudge 10, 20 Jewish guys going in there with weapons and going, no, you're not going to chant this stuff in our community? Well, I mean, that's like the guys that you could least begrudge. I mean, these guys are literal goddamn Nazis, and they're chanting against the Jews while carrying torches, right? But if those 10 or 20 Jewish guys asked me, I'd say, I love you, brothers and sisters, and I love your strength, and I love your attitude, but don't go, because it's
perhaps, but you wouldn't get nearly as mad about that as Kyle Rittenhouse. The difference being Kyle Rittenhouse is a white conservative guy. That's literally the difference.
Guaranteed that people are going to die if you go. Okay, so, and some of them might be you, some of them might be the other guys, but I don't want anyone to die. But to your point of like, oh, me saying, oh, Republicans want violence from time to time. Oh, that's crazy. No, they're just like us. No, there's polling. 28% of Republicans say that it's time for violence. So that's a giant number. And
it is, but I mean, for Charlottesville, as hateful as that riot was, they weren't destroying the city. I think that's a key component that, like, not to mention, and for Kenosha, that city was being destroyed off of misinformation reported about the Jacob Blake shooting. And there were videos of, like, people getting attacked, of car dealerships being set on fire. It just seems like there's remarkably little empathy for the people whose community, if you go to Kenosha today, if you go downtown, there's still shit that's boarded up that has never opened again as a result of those riots. And people are just fixated on the people that were, I mean, as shitty as it is, defending their community against who they perceived as outsiders that were coming just to destroy it. But
yeah, so look, I keep saying last thing because we're so out of time.
Sure. Yeah, sorry, go for it.
One more last thing. So to that point, Stephen, so some people say, hey, riots are the voice of the unheard. And I hear that, and that's a fair point. But by the way, you could maybe make that argument about January 6th too. And so that's a different, very long conversation, okay? But that, to me, does not excuse going and setting a building on fire. No excuse. So I'm not excusing that 1%. Now, but if you think it was just because of, like, bad reporting on one case, I don't think you even think that, right? You know the context is... Well, the
Kenosha riots happened because of the Jacob Blake misreporting. What A to B, a direct line.
So you know the context of tons and tons of unarmed black guys being shot by cops in this country.
No, there are not tons and tons of unarmed black guys being shot by cops in this country.
All right, okay, so you don't agree with that. Okay, fine.
Well, how many do you think a year get shot? How many unarmed black guys are getting shot by cops?
Okay, Stephen. Okay, let me finish the point.
Okay.
Wrap up.
The number's like 12, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So if you, look, I think that if you say to all black people in this country, you're all telling us you've been abused by cops, whether it's to the extreme of being shot or pulled over or arrested or something smaller. You've been abused, all of you, tens of millions of you say that, and you've been saying it for 100 years straight, and then we turn around and go, we don't believe you. I think that's deeply offensive. I think it doesn't make sense. I think it's ridiculous. So that's the context in which that riot happens. It doesn't excuse the riot. And by the way, the misreporting, yeah, okay, it turns out he had a knife, but they did shoot him in the back 7 times.
Because he was about to drive off with abducted children. That's a really important
He's not
part.
a good guy. He's not a good guy.
He's the worst guy. Yeah, but I'm saying that, like,
but
he was about to...
doesn't mean you shoot him in the back. There's other solutions other than...
They already tased him twice.
Shoot a guy in the back.
And he was reaching for something in the car. I'm pretty sure it was a knife, right?
They didn't just show up. They were wrestling with outside the house. They tried to wrestle on the ground multiple times. They tased the guy twice.
Rittenhouse for showing up. Okay, so look, I think that this whole thing, the Second Amendment, I got a right to bring weapons. Everybody's going to bring weapons, and we're all going to kill each other. I think it's a disastrous idea. And anyone who
yeah, because what's going on in American cities now is so different, right? What's going on in Chicago, that's not what this is. You know, the truth is that I think if more people, by the means of the law, if the law legally allowed them to go out and defend their communities, I think you'd actually see a much safer country than, you know, Chicago, where, you know, the story, strictest gun laws in the country, and yet they're all shooting each other, and you have ridiculous crime rates, you know. And honestly, I'd prefer the Wild West America to the current one. Genuinely, I prefer it. Maybe that's just because I'm part Italian, you know, it's in our blood. Hey, get out of our neighborhood. You know, we want just let the mafia run the business. But it's like, I'm being honest, I would prefer that.
Right wing or left wing. And by the way, Stephen, we've fought back against any kind of violence.
The Italian mafia of the 1920s probably did a better job of defending their neighborhoods than 21st century police, let's be honest. So, just a thought.
Including from our side, even things like that Riley Gaines, I think, the swimmer, she goes and gives a speech at some college, and then the leftists surround the room that she's in and won't let her out, and she's afraid for her safety. Cops won't let her out because they're afraid for her safety. What are you guys doing? To be a progressive is to believe in nonviolence.
Sure.
We don't do those thug tactics, okay?
Sure, but I will say your guys' coverage of the Michael Reinhold guy was a lot different, and I think that was a shooting that was clearly in the wrong. He was stalking a dude for hours, chased him across the street, and shot him in the face, and then ran away, and they gave interviews to Vice, and you guys were comparing that to like, oh, well, if Rittenhouse could kill the one guy that was chasing him, this guy's killing should have been just as supported. I don't know, like when you build up this world of like alternative fact reporting over and over and over over and over and over again. Like it's not surprising to me that after a while you've got people on the right and left that just live in totally different worlds. So people on the left are like, of course we're going to go riot and burn down cities. Hundreds or thousands of people every year are getting indiscriminately killed by the cops. And then people on the right are like, I don't know why you guys are burning down anything. We lived in a totally different fact world where all of your stuff is misreported, where people like, and then like even like, like the Rittenhouse killings are being compared to like Breonna Taylor, which is actually a truly tragic case where a woman died for no reasons, where at best the cops were serving a not great warrant, and at worst they shouldn't have even been there. And you've got people comparing like Breonna Taylor and Philando Castile, the black guy who got shot and killed in his car because the cops smelled weed, are comparing this to like the Rittenhouse killings and stuff. And it's like, geez, when all of it gets thrown together, it feels like it's easy to take none of it seriously, and that's the kind of thing that's frustrating to me.
All right, I hear you, but I again, we don't agree, and I think that this fetish of guns,
you lost. That's what happened. So we got totally owned this segment.
It's an empirical fact. The more guns we have, the more homicides there are, the more suicides there are, the more tension we have in the country, the more we distrust each other, the more fearful we are, and the more we strike out against one another and shoot and kill. And what we're trying to do on the Young Turks is to end all that stuff. The right wing, they'll never listen. But for the left wing, we try super hard to make sure that there are no riots, there's no violence, there's no threats. That's not what Martin Luther King stood for, or Nelson Mandela, or Mahatma Gandhi. And we remind our audience of that day in and day out. We probably do it more than any other show.
Okay. There's anything here we go back and forth for hours for, but I'll respect your time. We're already 20 minutes over. So do you have any final closing words or thoughts, remarks, or anything? Or
just look, guys, get in the fight. And by that, I mean, not like debates and not on the street, but I mean,
destroyed, dude.
Do something.
He got wrecked. Like rare Destiny W.
I agree on, right?
Freaking
if you're frustrated about the lack of progress, then support a candidate, support a group. Look, I'm lucky I get to form groups, right? Because we've built up some degree of power leverage, et cetera, at TYT, right? But help Justice Democrats bring more uncorrupted progressives in the Congress to fight for you.
DMG.
Help Rebellion PAC get progressives elected that are going to be aggressive and make sure that they get paid family leave passed, et cetera. Help Wolfpack to get corruption out of politics. Or form your own organization. And if you love Biden, then support Biden. If wherever it is, but get in the fight and do something, because if we all just sit around, the status quo is not helping anyone. And it's brutal, and it's going to run us all over. So let's get up, let's fight together, let's win together.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Thanks a lot. Obviously, I encourage my audience to do the same. Get Republicans out of office. I think it'll make a big difference. If you want to vote for progressives, knock yourselves out. But man, get Republicans out of office. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
You have blue hair.
And
you literally have blue
people
hair.
can find you guys obviously at the Young Turks. I don't even think I need to point that out. But yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate the conversation. Thanks for joining.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Yep. See you later. Bye.
All right, so there it is, ladies and gentlemen. We will go on to more stories now in Super Chats, so don't go anywhere. Don't just click off just because, the debate's over. We're going to talk about it, but I will say, I mean, honestly, I thought from an objective standpoint, Destiny was winning most of that debate, because you see how kind of silly some of Cenk's arguments are, even with the Biden stuff, which I don't care either way. I don't have a dog in that fight, but Destiny was totally right. Biden, what Cenk was saying is, politically speaking, Biden should have just defaulted on the debt, because unless Republicans embraced a super far left plan, because if he did that, then the American public would blame Republicans and it wouldn't be Biden's fault. It's just like, that's so stupid. Of course the people are going to be like, Biden, why did you allow our economy to crash? Like, what are you talking about? That was just dumb. So his whole approach there was dumb. Destiny on that, like I said, don't have a dog on that fight, just made a lot more sense. But especially the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff. Cenk had no facts on his side. He kept constantly trying to cop out for a reason because he was getting destroyed. Look, we disagree. We disagree. We disagree. Yeah, you keep saying that because he was getting destroyed. He doesn't know the basic facts of the case, which is very interesting because this was, it'd be one thing if you confronted him on the spot. It's been a long time. A lot of us don't remember, right? But, this was prepared. We said this is a topic we're going to debate. And Cenk just made absolutely no sense. All of it was silly. And rare Destiny W. I disagree with him on most things, but on that, he was pretty on point with the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff. And so, honestly, overall, I'd have to give the victory to Destiny. Not that I really care either way, But I did kind of appreciate that Kyle Rittenhouse segment, because you realize how stupid every generic liberal argument about Kyle is, right? Their whole argument rests on, well, look, fine, he didn't break law. He acted in self-defense. Okay, fine, but he should not have been there. And because I personally think he shouldn't have been there, he should go to jail. It's like, oh, you know, is that what our justice system is? Well, you know, truthfully, according to the left, that's what they want it to be. But yeah, okay, so there's a debate. Honestly, I don't have much else to say about it. I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts? I put out a poll in chat saying who's the bigger DNG. According to you guys, 56% said Destiny, 44% said Cenk. Although after that Kyle thing, I might have to flip those results. But most of you guys voted for Destiny. I will end that poll. And let's see, he kept saying 1-6, yeah. Destiny has some surprisingly... I'm not going to read that. Cenk has such faith. Yeah, even Dems hate Biden. Yeah, okay, I think we basically get it. Okay, well, all right, as usual, guys, if you want to super chat the show, I will read them. We will do our Q&A portion here in a second. But first, I do want to talk very briefly about this here. So... let's talk a little bit about Chris Christie, okay, ladies and gentlemen. Did you guys see this? Hold on. Okay. So, here we go. Is this the Chris Christie?
What? Why do you think...
Okay, that is the Chris Christie cam. Okay. So, Chris Christie announced today on Tuesday that he is running for president for the Republican nomination. Now, if you don't know who Chris Christie is, you're too young to remember. He basically, I would say, was the Ron DeSantis of the 2010s. Used to be the governor of New Jersey. Was pretty liked by a lot of people. Then he kind of ran into a feud with Trump and became this totally just Trump derangement syndrome, rhino, neocon, that whole story. So, you know, the guy's a total loser. He's also very large, okay? Just going to point, totally unrelated. I'm just pointing it out as a statement of fact. He is a very obese individual there from a medical perspective. Not that that matters, of course. But anyways, today he did his launch event for president, and I want to react to some of it because it was hilariously bad. It's probably one of the worst presidential announcements I have ever seen. Not only, you look at this, okay? I'll put it on screen here so you can see.
What? Why do you think John McCain voted no? Now,
okay, so as you can see, there's like 30 people there. It's definitely a very small room. Chris Christie, despite having so many years out of politics, he's lost 0 weight, still incredibly obese. Not a good look. Not a good look for the party. It's like, yeah, obviously we have a dementia guy in office, but I don't think we need an obese president either, you know, just like that. But anyways, he did this. It went on forever, chat, okay? I kid you not. It was like 6 or 7 o'clock. I saw Real American was live reacting to it. I figured, okay, it'll go, what, an hour or whatever? I swear. I don't know the exact timestamp. This thing must have gone on for like 2 to 3 hours, okay? The whole time. It's because I went on right before we went live. I went on to check. The freaking thing is still going. Okay, it's still going. And so I tuned into. Shout out to Real American for streaming this. And maybe we should have streamed it, but whatever. So I tuned in for about 2 minutes right before we went live tonight, and I mean, all he was talking about. Again, I tuned in for 2 minutes to give you an idea of the Chris Christie campaign. Talked about 2 things in the span of the 2 minutes, which I will play. He talked about John McCain. He was praising John McCain, and he was simping for the Ukraine stuff. Okay, take a listen. This was Chris Christie today. This is his announcement.
What? Why do you think John McCain voted no? Now, look, John McCain is gone, and we can't ask him anymore. And it very rarely will be that John McCain, I found to be a pretty...
So there he is, out of breath. The whole thing is boring. You can tell everyone is bored. Everyone's like, but you hear that, right? The guy's literally out of breath. Oops. I did not mean to do that. Here you go.
What? Why do you think John McCain voted no? Now, look, John McCain is gone, and we can't ask him anymore. And it very rarely will be that John McCain, I found to be a pretty principled guy, really didn't believe in the bill. But I'll tell you something else that I know about John McCain.
So defending
John McCain had a long memory. John McCain listened to Donald Trump beat him senseless day after day after day after day, starting with the beginning of his campaign when he said he wasn't a war hero because he got captured.
So you're mad that... Excuse me.
I would just suggest something on a human relations basis. If you're looking for somebody's vote who was kept in the Hanoi Hilton
it's
for
Trump's
years,
fault for Obamacare not passing, but it's McCain is a great person for voting against it.
I will not leave unless my men leave with me. If you want his vote, how about trying not to say he's not a hero.
Dude,
how about we start at that minimum amount of public?
Okay, step number one. It's very off-putting. You're so grotesquely obese that you are out of breath. John McCain. You know, it's just not. It's just very boring. It's very difficult to listen to. But on the greater point here, that's what you're going to run on, is rehashing this John McCain thing, right? Your 2024 platform is going to be about how Trump was too mean to John McCain. Okay, like that was 2016. It's been a long time, Chris. And it's funny because these are the type of people who say we can't go back to Trump because Trump is of the past. We need to look forward, look to the future. How is rehashing this old feud from 2016 and making that your focus going to win the future for the Republicans? It's ridiculous. But let's keep listening here. We've listened to exactly 60 seconds. I have another 58. And in the fifth, again, this is literally, I tuned in and just heard this for 2 minutes and I screen recorded it. John McCain, the first 60 seconds. Let's listen to the next 60 seconds here, okay?
Discourse. And now I heard him say, if we made him president again, he would settle the Ukraine war in 24 hours. Did you hear that one? That's a beauty. That's really in a career of complete falsehoods.
So, you know, you can just tell, look at the high energy. Don't these people look very enthused? Isn't this an event you would love to go to watch Chris Christie stumble around on the stage and breathe really hard and be like, Donald Trump is bad. Lois, this is not my Batman costume. Literally.
That makes the top 5. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say Donald Trump could settle it in 24 hours. Let me tell you how he would. He'd give Ukraine to Russia. And he said it.
Bro, what?
Literally not
He
true.
said it on television. He said it at CNN. He said, look, Russia's going to wind up with Ukraine anyway, so what's the difference?
That's not what he said.
That's not what he said.
That's how he'd settle it in 24 hours. He'd call Zelensky and say,
we're not talking about giving the whole country, okay? We're talking about a portion of the country because, let's be real, that's what's going to end up happening.
hey, guess what?
And by the way, Crimea is not Ukraine, so, you know, they always say that. No, Crimea is Russia. You can say, oh, the independence referendum was rigged. It was like 97%. And when you look at the inauguration ceremony to celebrate freaking Crimea being annexed back in 2014, does that look like the whole island is there celebrating and singing the Russian national anthem? Last I checked, they're not forced to be there by gunpoint. It's like, it's stupid. Like, you can argue, oh, the East is a little bit mixed. Okay, fine, I understand there's pro-Russia, pro-Ukraine. Crimea is Russian. They speak Russian. They've wanted to be a part of Russia, okay? And then this is what the totally unrelated. I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, so let's listen to the last 10 seconds here of what I said.
Raise the Russian flag up on the pole. We're out of here. So I'm going to talk about those things.
I'm going to talk about those things. So you guys got that? That's the Chris Christie 2024 platform. Talk about John McCain and keep defending John McCain. Why? I don't know, but John McCain. And we need to fight to the very bitter end against Russia and kill a bunch of Eastern Europeans just because we feel like it. There's Chris Christie for you. Just wanted to talk about that very briefly. Realistically, that's about all we're going to talk about Chris Christie for this entire cycle. The guy's totally irrelevant. I honestly wouldn't be talking about it at all today, but I just found it quite funny. It was just a funny sight, okay? You see this guy, the room is totally empty, you know, and he keeps running out of breath every 2 seconds. John McCain. Okay? I do hope he gets on the debate stage because I want to see one more time Donald Trump just call him fat or whatever. It would be kind of funny. But yeah, there's Chris Christie. Just thought we'd bring it up. Total joke, total disaster. With that said, we could probably go to Super Chats now. We'll probably just do that. What time is it? 10:53. Okay, we'll do Super Chats for about 20 minutes here and then call it a night. Unless you want to react to Tucker. Unless you want to do a super stream. We could react to Tucker Carlson's new show. That is also an option. But let me read a Super Chats here for a few minutes. Let's get caught up. So Daniel McQuaid for $6.99 Canadian, thank you very much, says, Destiny is tolerable compared to Cenk. At least Destiny isn't idiotic and can understand what conservatives are conveying. Sometimes, yeah. Thank you for the $6.99. I mean, I've heard Destiny say things that are not ridiculous every once in a while. Honestly, if he wasn't such... if his personality was a little bit less, actually, you know what I mean? Actually. If he wasn't such a DNG like that, he might be tolerable. That's his biggest problem. See, I feel like that's what distinguishes him from Bill Maher, right? Bill Maher is one of the most tolerable ones. Why? Because not that he's the best comedian ever, but he's actually sometimes kind of funny, and he has kind of like a cool guy personality, right? And I think that's what makes him more tolerable in some regards, right? But it is true. Thank you for that. Whereas Destiny's like just a total DNG. But yeah, thank you for the $6.99 Canadian, Daniel McQuaid. God bless you. I appreciate it. Republican Thinker for $5.50 Canadian says, love to see companies take down their pride logos. Some of you may not see it, but we are taking ground. Also not surprising, but Cenk took the L again. This is true. I don't think I've ever seen Cenk win anything. But thank you for the $5, the $5.50 Canadian. And it is true. We are making ground in the culture war. A lot of people don't want to admit it on both sides. It is true. Listen. This is how you start, okay? Like I said, we're the first wave. Like D-Day, we're the first wave. So what happens? We lose a lot. It's the toughest one. But you see it coming into motion, right? We're starting to climb back up the slippery slope. So, Small Graydon guy says he wants a super stream. I'll think about it. We'll see how the super chats go. And then I'll use that to think about it, okay? Andrew M says he wants Tucker. Okay, we could do it. You guys got to support if we're going to do it. No need for Trump to throw insults. He needs to focus on actual policies. See, that just ignores how politics actually works. If you want policy debates, then you shouldn't support a democracy where everyone votes, okay? I'm so like that talking point, I hear it all the time, but it's like not true. Why does Trump blah 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 this and that? Why can't we all just sit down and have academic debates about policy? I don't know. Maybe because we live in a democracy. Maybe because we have representative government and because we don't put any bar to voting. That's kind of how you win. Just a thought. We could have more substantive policy debates if less people voted. That's the truth. But they do. So don't shame me for looking at the system the way I... All I can do is that's the cards you've given me. I didn't ask to be born in a democracy, especially a democracy where everyone votes no matter what if you're over 18. So, you throw that in front of me and then I'm going to be like, okay, well then obviously there's an emotional side to politics. I got to consider that. And I got to consider the fact that Chris Christie, like an actual obese slob, is not electable because that's something you have to consider. Well then, but listen to Chris Christie's policies. Okay, but if we operate in this system where everyone's going to call him the fat kid and not take him seriously, then what do we expect? I mean, I just look at what's in front of me. All right, let's check Streamlabs here. Missed one here. $25 donation on Streamlabs. Joanna, please read it. Chat, what happened to her? Hello, Joanna. There we go.
The _pigeon_slayer donated $25.
Didn't even leave a message, but I appreciate it very much, Pigeon Slayer. God bless you. Thank you for the 25. And thank you for using Streamlabs, because you know how much of that I keep? It's like they take like 1 or 2%. So that's like sales taxes, whatever. So like $24.90, whatever. Whereas YouTube, you know how much of that I would keep? 25 times 0.7, which is... I'm not Asian enough for that. See, if I was 100% Asian, I would figure that out. But I'm mixed, so that's why. But thank you for the $25. I appreciate it. I appreciate the Streamlabs donation, and thank you, Joanna, for reading it the second time. I don't know why you weren't working the first time, but she was off guard. She was off guard because she hasn't heard a Streamlabs donation for a while. Thank you, a Pigeon Slayer. I appreciate that very much. Okay. Well, since he sent me the 25. That probably will bribe me. We could react to Tucker Carlson, but I'll read chat for another like 3 to 4 minutes, okay? And then we'll go on. So any super chats you want to send them in now. Sales tax is that low where you live? I was just giving an example. I think it's 8%, 7-8%, something like that. But there's no income tax, so that's good. You have no idea how good it felt to not have to pay state income tax this year. That's very underrated, okay? Oh, but they tax you in other areas. That's a cope. That's not really true. But even if it were sort of kind of true, you know, I would still say that there's something very demoralizing about paying income tax, because you have to do the paperwork, do this paperwork and send your check to the government because you're literally a slave. It's very demoralizing. I'd much rather pay higher sales taxes and not notice it than have to go on Intuit TurboTax and be like, okay, government, take my money. But that's what Cenk Uyghur supports. Cenk Uyghur wants, 80,000 more IRS agents because he's a slave, literally. So, slave brain. So let's see here. In Alberta, you guys have no provincial sales tax. Wow, very cool. Are you in Florida? Yes, I am in Florida. Okay. Well, while we sit around and wait, all right, fine. How long have we been going for? About to do a 3-hour stream. Unbelievable. Okay. Let me pull up then the Tucker Carlson show so we can react to it. I guess we could clip it for a segment tomorrow too. It'll be nice. Gonna have a lot of long form content in the clips tomorrow, but here we go. Okay. Let me pull it up because I did not prepare it, but we could do this. Yo, Nick Sorter follows me on Twitter. Shout out Nick Sorter. I did not know that. Shout out Tristan Tate, by the way, too. Followed me on Twitter the other day. Was not expecting that. Very cool. Wait, should we interview Tristan Tate, chat? Could you imagine? One day. Okay, let's see here. That's yesterday's story. Okay. All right. Let me just change the browser source here and we could probably get it to work. Let's react to the Tucker Carlson show, shall we? I am so tired. But you guys convinced me. It was only because of the $25 super chat. But let's do this. Okay. All right. Before we do that, let me make sure the cropping is right. Okay, good to go. All right. I'm going to introduce this like a story.
What? Why do you think John McCain voted no? Now, look, John McCain is gone, and we can't ask him anymore.
Sorry, Chris Christie won't shut up.
And it very well will be that John McCain...
All right, ready to go. Okay, all right, then let's react to it. I'm not going to do this for every Tucker Carlson episode, but since it is the first, why not? Might as well play it, react to it, boost it on YouTube, show him some support. Okay, so... today, Tucker Carlson launched the first ever episode of his new show on Twitter, okay? So we're going to react to it in today's video. I'm not going to do this for every single Tucker Carlson show, but, I figured first one, might as well sit down, watch it, enjoy it, show some support, because I'm sure there's a YouTube crowd who doesn't use Twitter. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. First episode of the Tucker Carlson Twitter show. Is it any good? I don't know. Haven't seen it. Time to find out. Let's take a listen.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. This morning it looks like somebody blew up the Kakhovka Dam in southern Ukraine. The rushing wall of water wiped out entire villages, destroyed a critical hydropower plant, and as of tonight puts the largest nuclear reactor in Europe in danger of melting down. So if this was intentional, it was not a military tactic, it was an act of terrorism.
Correct. By the way, you guys digging this whole, what is he? He's like in his house. He's in his barn. Barnyard Tucker, let's go.
The question is, who did it? Well, let's see. The Kakhovka Dam was effectively Russian. It was built by the Russian government. It currently sits in Russian-controlled territory. The dam's reservoir supplies water to Crimea, which has been, for the last 240 years, home of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. Blowing up the dam may be bad for Ukraine, but it hurts Russia more. And for precisely that reason, the Ukrainian government has considered destroying it. In December, the Washington Post quoted a Ukrainian general saying his men had fired American-made rockets at the dam's floodgate as a test strike. So really, once the facts start coming in, it becomes much less of a mystery what might have happened to the dam. Any fair person would conclude that the Ukrainians probably blew it up.
Just like Nord Stream, by the way. That came out today. The Washington Post confirmed. Actually, yeah, Ukraine did blow up Nord Stream. It was not Russia. So I'd have to imagine it's the same thing here. The U.S. government's going to deny it. Biden's going to deny it. A few months later, the truth will come out. But that does tell you a lot. Okay, so it's one thing, okay, flood a city, whatever. It's warfare, I get it. But that puts, like he said, Europe's largest nuclear reactor in jeopardy. So you're talking about an ecological, like, human rights disaster that you may have on your hands, okay? And allegedly, this is what Ukraine has done. Now, before you pretend like oh, well, whatever, that's Ukraine, why do we care? So we're the ones giving Ukraine billions of dollars here. We're the sole force in the world, basically, keeping them in the fight. You mean to tell me we don't have leverage, we don't have influence? So either way, in some way, there was a failure of leadership here, right? Because either A, much like Nord Stream, the U.S. signed off on destroying this thing that would potentially cause a nuclear meltdown, and we don't care because, I don't know, Biden is evil like that. Or B, we did not use our leverage and we just recklessly let the Ukrainians do it, which is negligent, and I don't think that's any better. So either way, there's a lot of explaining to do here. So good on Tucker. Good opening story here. I mean, I didn't even hear about this, but, you know, Tucker is based.
Nord Stream, the Russian natural gas pipeline, last fall. And in fact, the Ukrainians did do that, as we now know. It's not like Vladimir Putin is anxious to wage war on himself. Oh, but that's where you're wrong, Mr. and Mrs. Cable News consumer. Vladimir Putin is exactly that sort of man, the sort of man who'd shoot himself to death in order to annoy you. We know this from the American media, which wasted no time this morning in accusing the Russians of sabotaging their own infrastructure. Bill
that
Crystal,
doesn't even make logical
the man who
sense.
Told
Why
us
would they do that?
Saddam Hussein was responsible for 9/11, immediately denounced Putin as a war criminal and even more savagely compared him to Donald Trump. The rest of the pundit class made similar, clearly coordinated noises. Putin did it! Putin did it! And their reasoning was simple. Putin is evil, and evil people do evil things purely for the dark joy of being evil. In this specific case,
we can ask him, okay? As you know, I work for Vladimir Putin. I am a registered Russian agent, so let's just call him right now. All right. Vladimir Putin. Yo, what's up, boss? So, you know, I'm on the stream right now. I want to know, you know, the people are asking, did you blow up the Kosovo Dam, whatever it's called? No? Okay, he said he didn't, Jack. He said I don't know. He said he didn't, so, you know. Obviously, I have him on a personal, you know, line, because Russian agent, you know, as you know. But
attacked himself, which is the most...
That's a joke, by the way, YouTube. That's a joke.
Evil thing you can do, and therefore perfectly in character for a man that evil. That was their explanation. No one who's paid to cover these things seemed to entertain even the possibility it could have been the Ukrainians who did it. No chance of that. Ukraine, as you may have heard, is led by a man called Zelensky. And we can say for a dead certain fact that he was not involved. He couldn't have been. Zelensky is too decent for terrorism.
Right.
Now, you see him on television, and it's true you might form a different impression. Sweaty and rat-like, a comedian turned oligarch, a persecutor of Christians, a friend of BlackRock.
True.
But don't believe your own eyes. Actually, Mr. Zelensky is a very good man. The best, really. As George W. Bush once noted, he is...
They're so naive. You know, all of Eastern Europe is corrupt. Is this a surprise? The liberals think Russia's the only corrupt nation in Eastern Europe. No, they're all corrupt, right? And you see this in the propaganda. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Russia does a lot of propagandizing or whatever, but it's like... The Ghost of Kiev, yeah. Like that, the Ghost of Kiev story is the typical Eastern European, just made up propaganda. And you hear this even, like, both sides claim they're about to win the war every single day. Oh, yes, we're about to win. Do not worry about it. It will be done. It will be done. You know, it's okay. You know, they're both sides. Why? Because it's like both countries are Eastern European mafia states, okay? The difference is one is supported by the U.S. and the other is against the U.S. Like, that's the only real difference besides some other things. Obviously, there are other differences, you know, ideological, whatever. But at its core, this is what you're talking about here. But it's always funny seeing the Russia-Ukraine thing because they always assume Ukraine would never lie to us. It's Eastern Europe, okay? Everyone is, hey, we're about to win. Okay, do not worry. Both of them, okay? You have Gru, Despicable Me in one country, and then he's fighting Gru number 2 in the other country. That's what Eastern Europe is. That's basically Eastern European politics. Don't kid yourself.
Our generation's Winston Churchill. Of all the people in the world, our shifty, dead-eyed Ukrainian friend in the tracksuit is uniquely incapable of blowing up a dam. He's literally a living saint, a man in whom there is no sin. That's why Lindsey Graham is so attracted to him. They're just...
There's something you couldn't say on Fox, implying Lindsey Graham is a closeted homosexual, which is, from the sources I have heard, that is allegedly also true.
Two good people hanging out together and being good. And like all good people, when they meet him...
See, you guys don't see what Tucker was doing. I see. I caught that 100%.
Person. They spend a lot of time talking about killing people and laughing like friends do. Here's the
That was intentional word choice.
Free or die.
Free or die.
Now you are free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying. It's the best money we've
Listen
ever
to the
spent.
guy.
Thank you so much.
No, it's...
The Russians are dying. It's the best money we've ever spent, Graham says. A smile spreads across his thin...
Look at Zelensky. You know, they're all like this is Eastern European politics, like I said. And some of them over in Eastern Europe are kind of more based, you could say, mafia bosses. The other ones are more liberal ones, but it's all fundamentally the same. It's all a bunch of mafia guys. And you say, hey, yes, we're killing lots of Russian. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I'm sure Volodymyr Zelensky is telling the truth. Yeah, surely, yeah.
Quivering lips as he forms the words. He looks like a starving man contemplating a breakfast buffet. The aroma of death has aroused Lindsey Graham. Thanks so much, replies Zelensky. He feels the same way. See, there's nothing dark here. Just two middle-aged guys celebrating the killing of a population. They don't seem like the kind of people who enjoy flooding villages or starting a famine. And in any case, who cares if they are? It's really not your business. Your job is to support Ukraine. Watch Nikki Haley, a Republican.
Your job to support us, yes. Do not worry. We doing good thing with money. We don't send to, enrich pocket and buy prostitute. We definitely... Well, don't worry. We using all of it, okay? It's going to good place. No, you do not need to audit it. Don't need to audit. We got okay. You send 80 billion, okay. Got it, friend. Then you send another, okay. That is literally this war. That is this war. Small grading guy for $2 says Zelensky did 714. He did. It's true.
Republican
Thank you for the two.
Candidate for president explained this principle on CNN.
A win for Ukraine is a win for all of us.
Here's another stable genius. We got stable genius 1, stable genius 2 over here.
And for them to sit there and say that this is a territorial dispute, that's just not the case. To say that we should stay neutral. It is in the best interest of America. It's in the best interest of our national security for Ukraine to win. We have to see this through.
Why?
We have to finish it.
To fund one corrupt Eastern European country against another one? Hey, do not worry. Okay.
See? It's very easy to understand. It is vitally important for you to support Ukraine because it's necessary for Ukraine to be supported by you. Your support is mandatory until it's finished, whatever it is, and whatever that means.
Which is an unrealistic
So shut
goal.
up and support
They don't
Ukraine
know.
or else you're in trouble. Back when they still taught logic, statements like this were known as tautologies. Something is true because it is. The more you repeat it, the truer it becomes. It's a self-reinforcing reality. There was a time when tautologies were considered illegitimate arguments, not to mention hilariously stupid. Only dumb people talk like that. Now everybody in power talks like that.
Zelensky just bought his parents a $40 million mansion. I did not... Kurt Steven, I don't know if that's true. If it is. It's exactly what I'm saying, though. Hey, yes. Oh, thank you for 80 billion, Mr. Biden. We put this all in good place. Hey, Jack. Why did you buy a $1 million mansion, $40 million mansion for your parents? Do not worry, okay? No, listen, you don't need to ask questions, okay? Relax. Okay, that's what's happening. America's literally getting conned by Eastern European scammers, okay? And you gotta respect the Ukrainians for it, to a degree. Because it's like, imagine hustling Biden and being just like a mafia boss in Eastern Europe. It is kind of funny. But, it's not good for our budget, that's for sure.
Diversity is our strength. Trans women are women. Zelensky is Churchill. It's all self-evidently
just like Winston
true.
Churchill.
Doesn't need an explanation, and don't ask questions. Sound familiar? Of course it does. That's the pap they're serving us day after day in steaming, lumpy portions. By this point, it's possible that American citizens are the least informed people in the world.
True.
Your average yak herder in Tajikistan knows who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline.
True.
It's obvious.
And they know what a woman is.
Does he think some skinny dude in a dress is actually a girl? Come on.
Took the words
that idea
right
would
out of my
never
mouth.
occur to him. You've got to be lied to at full volume over a period of years in order to reach conclusions like that. And of course, we have been. The media lie. They do.
Yep.
But mostly they just ignore the stories that matter. What's happened to the hundreds of billions of US dollars we've sent to Ukraine? No clue.
Do not worry. You do not need to have clue. Do not worry. Thank you, Gru from Despicable Me.
Who organized those BLM riots 3 years ago?
Do not ask
no one's
questions.
gotten to the bottom of that. What exactly happened
Calm
on
down. Have some vodka.
9/11? Well, it's still classified. How did Jeffrey Epstein make all that money? How did he die? How about JFK? And so endlessly on. Not only are the media not interested in any of this, they are actively hostile to anybody who is. In journalism, curiosity is the gravest crime.
Yeah, do need to be
Yesterday,
curious.
for example, a former Air Force officer who worked for years in military intelligence came forward as a whistleblower to reveal that the U.S. government has physical evidence of crashed non-human-made aircraft, as well as the bodies of the pilots who flew those aircraft. The Pentagon has spent decades studying these otherworldly remains in order to build more technologically advanced weapons systems. Okay, that's what the former intel officer revealed, and it was clear he was telling the truth.
I will say I'm a little bit skeptical of this slightly. You know, I'm not an alien denier. I'm just an alien skeptic because I don't believe it's the most likely thing. Now, I will say I've heard Matt Walsh give some pretty compelling arguments as to why, because the biggest thing for me is a religious thing. I used to be a big alien head when I was an atheist, and then like kind of now I'm like, well, I feel like it's inconsistent with it's not like I'm not saying it's heretical or whatever to believe in aliens. It's just I feel like it's not totally consistent with, I don't know, the way I understand creation or whatever. Although Matt Walsh, I have heard, made some interesting arguments for it. But my big thing with aliens is this, and the UFOs and all that. It's interesting. I do find a lot of these videos interesting. I feel like it could be something that, you know, is not aliens at all. It could be secret military technology. It could be, you know, it could be angels or demons, something angelic or demonic. I don't know which, but you know what I mean? It could be something like that. It could be something otherworldly, supernatural, whatever. But my big thing with the aliens is I very often notice that the UFO community is just a bunch of Reddit tier liberal atheists who just want to like feel fascinated by something, because I think we as human beings biologically have an instinct to believe there is something like beyond us, and we look to the heavens, we look to the skies for it. Now, I think that's a product of creation. I think it says we're literally made by God, and that's why we always look to the sky for something religious, right? In every such scenario. But they basically channel that energy because every human has to have it to some degree. None of us can deny it. They look to it, and so they bring up this UFO thing. Aliens are going to come from the sky, and that's like the gods, right? So that's the way I view the, you know, UFO thing. Now, is it true? Could aliens maybe be real? I suppose. But my big thing is I enjoy denying the existence of UFOs because it makes the liberals mad and the atheists mad. They're like, bro, what do you mean? How can we be alone in the universe? Look at the probability. And I'm like, shut up, nerd. Shut up, DNG. It's all fake. Science is fake. Aliens are fake. Deal with it. Cope and seethe. That's really my stance on aliens. It's not particularly educated. It's just, that's what I see. But we'll hear it out. I mean, this is interesting to say the least.
In other words, UFOs are actually real, and apparently so is extraterrestrial life. Now we know. In a normal country, this news would qualify as a bombshell, the story of the millennium. But in our country, it doesn't. The whistleblower's account ran on a technology website called The Debrief, which you've probably never heard of. The Washington Post had that story, but decided not to run it. The New York Times, meanwhile, just pretended it never happened. On the front page of the New York Times website this morning, there were 5 stories about Ukraine, as well as 4 stories apiece about Donald Trump, trans people, and climate change, the usual lineup. There was nothing at all about how an alien species is flying hypersonic.
Why do the aliens only show up at U.S. military bases? Yeah, or near U.S. military bases, right? I do think that those UFO, like there are UFOs in the sky. I do believe that. You know, all the flying discs that people see, because there have been reports of that since World War II. Ever since we started flying, we've been seeing those weird things. You know, the flying discs, they always move around crazy. So I don't deny that. I don't deny that at all. I just think one of two things. Either A, it's some type of secret technology, you know, who knows? It's possible. Or B, like, either it's something demonic or it's angels traversing the heavens. Like that's what I believe, honestly. I feel like both of those, now if you're an atheist, you're going to say that's not real, whatever. But to me, both of those are more plausible than the aliens. Aliens are like number 3 for me. The first two are those two. Because also, I know Roswell popularized this belief, but if aliens were spying on us, you would think they'd have more... If they were able to traverse galaxies, right? Because supposedly, you know, there's no life in our galaxy. So if they can traverse galaxies, that's very difficult. They use a lot of light years and stuff, okay? So if they're that advanced where they could do that, wouldn't they have a more efficient way to spy on our planet or whatever they're doing, observe humanity, than have little flying saucers flying around the sky? You know? Like, I get it, they're faster than our craft and they move weird and whatnot. They also arguably defy the laws of physics, which if those apply on Earth, you would think that's why I'd argue it's something more likely supernatural than it is. Whatever though, right? I don't know. I don't believe the theory that aliens are going around flying on Earth, just like really weird airplanes that glow, and that's the way they're spying on us. If that were real, I would think they'd have way more advanced methods than that, you know? I don't know.
Aircraft over our cities, not one word. So if you're wondering why our country seems so dysfunctional, this is a big part of the reason. Nobody knows what's happening. A small group of people control access to all relevant information, and the rest of us don't know. We're allowed to yap all we want about racism, but go ahead and talk about something that really matters and see what happens. If you keep it up, they'll make you be quiet. Trust us. That's how they maintain control. When Western tourists first started traveling in large numbers to the Soviet Union in the early 1970s, they found that many Russians had a completely warped understanding of the United States. They thought that Americans lived in grinding poverty, in a state of perpetual race war, and were desperate to flee to the freedom and prosperity of the Eastern Bloc.
Hey, look, those Americans, they always fight each other. It is paradise here, okay? Listen, we drive our Lada, okay?
They thought this because that's what they had been told. They had no way to know otherwise.
Not worry.
The few
Boris Yeltsin the bear, he see us through.
Russians who understood what was really going on.
Boris Yeltsin was okay, never mind. Who was before? Nikita Khrushchev, he see us through.
And the rest of the world had learned about it from listening to shortwave radio broadcasts, sometimes under the covers so the neighbors wouldn't hear. 50 years later, it is bewildering to consider the ironies here. We're the ones who live in ignorance now. The US government has managed to classify more than 1 billion so-called public documents.
True.
So at this point, we can't possibly know what our leaders are doing. We're not allowed to know. By definition, that is not a democracy. Yet it's fine with the media. Secrecy is a powerful tool of control. Stop asking how we got so rich. Here's another story about racism. Go eat each other. That's the program. That's how most of us now live here in the United States. Manipulated by lies, silenced by taboos. It is unhealthy and it's dehumanizing, and we're tired of it. As of today, we've come to Twitter, which we hope will be the shortwave radio under the blankets. We're told there are no gatekeepers here. If that turns out to be false, we'll leave. But in the meantime, we are grateful to be here. We'll be back with much more very soon.
People say the news is full of lies.
All right, folks, so there you have it. There's episode 1 of the Tucker Twitter show. Appreciate it. Love to see it. I think, okay, now, let's see, 11:22. We'll go till 11:40, okay? So like 20 more minutes. We'll do pure super chat, Q&A, reading chat for the next 20 minutes here. Undivided attention. I'm sure this alien debate's going to be a big thing. But yeah, as usual, questions or comments that you want read and answered here in our little Q&A, feel free to send it in via these super chats. We got YouTube, obviously. If you could send it on Streamlabs, that'd be appreciated too. You know, takes less of a cut there. But regardless, we are open. By the way, thank you to the Streamlabs donator earlier. $25. Love to see it. Okay. Dirty Mike says, Vince, you don't think life exists elsewhere? No. I don't think so. Look at the Drake equation. Doesn't the Drake equation basically argue why it's actually statistically improbable, right? See, because I do believe now, look, it is possible. I will say, in fairness, Matt Walsh did convince me that believing in aliens is consistent with a Christian worldview, so fine. But I still tend not to believe it because, I mean, I don't know. You would think we'd have some type of radio contact by now, whatever it is. You know, there's this big thing perpetually. We keep looking, ET, can never find it, right? Can never find it. And I think that you say, oh, well, probability-wise, the same process should have to repeat itself, and we should have other planets like Earth with advanced civilizations. And to that I say, why? Why is that true? And also, you say, oh, well, probability-wise, the process should repeat itself. You don't even know the process. You do not know what started life on Earth, okay? So scientists, and, you know, scientists always do, if it were true that all you needed to create life was a Earth-like planet with enough oxygen and water and all that stuff, then you would think that it would be pretty easy, right? And yet, have you ever seen, never have scientists been able to create organic living matter from inorganic matter, right? Because, listen, you would think, so if the scientific theory is true, we all started from some small bacteria, and the bacteria evolved because, you know, chemical reactions, maybe near the hydrothermal vents. That's a theory I learned in school. It started at the hydrothermal vents, right? Hydrothermal vents in the ocean, they all came together and started. Okay, then why do we not observe that happening today? Hydrothermal vents are still around. How come we don't see, oh, you just put this chemical reaction together, it'll synthesize and it'll become a bacteria? Why has that never happened? Why have scientists never been able to do that? Yes, scientists can create clones and stuff, but notice they always need to have organic matter first, right? What do they create the clones from? They take cells, they replicate the cells. Okay, fine. But I've never seen a single cell in any form start from something that is not another cell. And if it was that simple, you know, just crazy chemical process, all the stuff we have scientifically now, you can't recreate that. But then you say, okay, you have no explanation for how life started scientifically. But you say, statistically speaking, there's so many planets like Earth in the universe, so the same thing must have happened. Well, that assumes you know what started life. Oh, life exists because of carbon and oxygen. I don't know, maybe. But what actually started the life? So they always say this. They say probability-wise, it should be the case. Life must exist elsewhere in the universe. Why? Says who? If you do not know the process that started life and science cannot explain that, who are you to say that there's life elsewhere in the universe? Just because we have planets like Earth out there. Yeah, but you don't know what started life on Earth. The scientists have no explanation. They cannot rationalize what started life on Earth because you've never seen, even on the smallest level. And they've tried, but you put all the atoms together, the molecules together. Never once have you seen a bacteria grow out of a complicated chemical reaction. It's never happened. It's never been observed. The only thing we've ever observed is bacteria growing from more bacteria, right? So we have no explanation for creation or how life got here. But we assume, oh, life must exist elsewhere in the universe because according to our stupid telescopes that who knows if any of that's real, there are planets like Earth out there. Okay, but that doesn't tell the story. Why? How? Right? Oh, well, they have water. They have oxygen. Okay, but you don't know that that's what started life because you have no idea what started life. Sure, maybe on our planet we need water and oxygen to sustain. Okay, I understand that. But how did the life start? Right? That's a correlation without causation. You haven't actually explained what caused life to begin. So that's why I don't believe in aliens, and I don't believe them to be particularly rational, right? And I know the scientific crowd always says, probability-wise, they must exist. But again, what is the reason you say that? You say that because you say there are planets like Earth out there, supposedly. Who knows if that's true? Supposedly. But again, if that were the case, then you would expect to see life just growing out of nothing now. But you have no idea where life comes from. You have the science says have no explanation, but they say it must exist elsewhere. Well, how do you know the process? And let's pretend for a moment that it's totally not religious, which it is. But let's pretend for a moment. still, I think the fact that we don't observe life create itself on Earth and it always has to come from something else implies that the thing that all started life on Earth, whatever it was, is incredibly rare, incredibly exceptional, incredibly like out of this world, right? It's total, like it's not something we naturally observe just in normal whatever. So just looking at a planet called another Earth-like planet and saying, well, life must exist there too, that ignores the fact that like you have no explanation for how life started here. And if life started here by the most statistically improbable of circumstances, so rare that we haven't even observed anything like it here on Earth currently in our lifetimes, then how can you say it must be statistically true that life exists elsewhere in the universe? I think that's a cope. I think it's actually, when you really think about it logically, more probable that we are alone in the universe in terms of other living beings in the normal non-divine sense at least, than it is that we are accompanied in the universe. So St. Joseph says it's assuming the possibility of spontaneous generation. Yeah, I know, that's their cope. That's their cope. It all just came from hydrothermal vents, atoms, whatever. Maybe that's true. Why do we never observe it? Why have we never seen that happen? You know? It's true. Michael says, why would God create the whole universe and only have life on one planet? I mean, we're now trying to understand like why God does the things he does, which like maybe because he's God, maybe because he's all knowing, and but also if God has infinite power, right? Why not? It's nothing to God, just create the whole universe. It looks small to us humans, but to God, that's just his creation. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, I could understand, well, maybe if God wants to create this big universe, he would want to have life on it. But how do you know that God didn't just create the universe because he wants to demonstrate the infinite beauty and infinite power of his creation? You know? Like, I understand from a human perspective, oh, if I were going to create a universe, I'd want to have a lot of different life forms on it. But number one, you're not God. You don't know why he does the things he does. And then number two, maybe because God just wants to create something infinite like that, you know? I don't know. Plus, you know, in a religious sense, I very often feel like, you know, their whole idea of an alien invasion is just an atheist spin on the natural instinct we have that end times is going to come, you know? Right? We know who's going to come from the sky. White stallion with a sword, you know? But I think it's a channeling of that energy or redoing of the, I don't know. You know what I mean. Dirty Mike says Vince's science argument is as good as Cenk's Rittenhouse argument. Well, if you really want to be truly scientific about this, you know, there's no proof of aliens. Therefore, you should not assume or believe they exist. That's the scientific process. Scientific method says unless we can verifiably prove something, it's not, we can't assume that it's real. So I'm the one being logical. We've never discovered alien life, therefore I don't believe in alien life. I mean, if you truly want to be a science nerd about it, I mean, it's, you know, it is what it is. The Bible does not say there is intelligent life on other planets. If there was, it would say so. God created the earth for his pleasure. It said he made life on earth, nowhere else. I mean, well, what I will say is that it is possible that, you know, the Bible only teaches us about the earth and it's not relevant to us of what happens in the rest of the galaxy, right? So it is possible. Matt Walsh convinced me, okay, well, technically it's logically possible that the two could be consistent, but, you know, I'd still say, okay, so what, right? It's like, you know, especially, yeah, maybe if God creates an infinite universe, there are other things out there or whatever. But I would also think, as a Christian, that if there were an alien invasion, you know, it's kind of crazy out of left field, like another world species is gonna come, and you think it'd be kind of part of prophecy. I don't know, you know, I don't know. It's just I don't lean towards it. I think it's just I think it's kind of just a cope. Maybe there are aliens out there, but of what relevance is that to me? They can go do their alien things. They can talk about their alien politics, you know, Zikbar Akbar. So, Dirty Mike says, Vince, did germs exist before we knew they did? I mean, yeah, but what does that prove? I don't know what you're trying to get at. Yeah, yes. God did make the world before he made us. But, I mean, what's the follow-up there? Dirty Mike says, you're letting your religion cloud your judgment. It doesn't have to be that way. Dirty Mike, I just gave that's just dishonest. I went on for like 10 minutes about why, like, it's illogical. It's actually a huge leap in logic to say, because there are other planets like Earth, there must be life like Earth. I just went on a whole, like, scientific argument there, okay? I explained, if you cannot quantify or explain the process that creates life, how can you I just explained that all. You don't understand how life started. Science has no idea, but we just say because there are Earth-like planets out there, there must be other life out there. That assumes you know how the life started. And the spontaneous generation theory that, oh, hydrothermal vents create life, which we don't prove, we have no idea about, that's just dishonest. I went on a very long rant with no religion mentioned about just why it's statistically improbable, or you can't explain it away by just saying there are other planets like Earth. That's cope. And by the way, Drake equation. We never heard about this? Drake equation freaking answer. I can't find it. All right, never mind. Doesn't actually give the answer. Never mind. Whatever. Point being. No, I actually think our belief in aliens is actually irrational. It is. You want to believe because it's cool. I get it. I used to be the same way. But you're taking serious leaps in logic. And then you say, like, religion is clouding your judgment, when I think there's far more proof for my religion than there is of aliens. Because you know how much proof there is for aliens? 0. But I actually somewhat believe it to be implausible for them to exist, because, you know, I think if the process that caused life on Earth, according to their little theory, is so rare and so improbable that we, like, literally can never observe it and we can't recreate it, if it's that rare, then you really think every Earth-like planet in the galaxy and the universe has a bunch of little aliens running on it? When we're talking about some, like, extremely rare process, we could never... Maybe there's, like, 1 or 2 in the whole galaxy, maybe. But, like, the odds are not actually on their side. So, no, aliens being here is irrational. Aliens existing somewhere else is logical. Maybe, but who cares? Why? Okay, then what relevance is it to me? Which is exactly my point. But still, I don't think it's that realistic, because, you know, you think you get a radio signal, right? Because mankind gives off all these radio signals. An alien can observe it in the universe. So aliens don't use radio? You know, I don't know. It's just like, if you can explain the process that creates life, that's my big thing. That's my big hurdle. If you scientifically can explain the process that creates life, then we can examine, well, how can that be replicated throughout the universe? Problem is, science can't really explain it because it's called divine creation, which is why they can never replicate it. Oh, but my spontaneous generation. Okay, then do it. You have so much technology. I mean, we can make, like, we can do nuclear fission as fusion, I should say. That creates more energy. We can do nuclear fusion as humanity, but we somehow can't recreate the natural process that spawned life on Earth. How much energy do you need? We have the power of nuclear energy. Literally, fusion is the amount of energy that keeps the sun. Stars burn on nuclear fusion. Mankind can create nuclear fusion, but somehow we don't have the energy levels needed to recreate what caused life on Earth. Some hydrothermal vent. Oh, lava, and then the chemical came together, and then boom, bacteria, and they became fish, and then the fish walked on land. You know, you mean to tell me we can't recreate that? It's probably because, like I said, life is divinely created. And if it is, then I'm not going to assume just because there's other planets like Earth that God decided there wants to be life on there. Maybe, who knows? Fine. It's possible. But it's not really something I'm going to occupy my brain with. And, you know. What's wrong with saying that we actually are alone on the universe and that's what makes us special and exceptional, you know? Right? Vince, you have correctly identified the problem. It is true. Explain to me how to simulate millions of years in a lab and I'll create life for you. You really believe that? You really believe that? What chemical reaction that actually goes against the laws of entropy, right? See, you guys always think I'm like a total, all I do is like to be a reactionary and deny science. I actually, like, not that I'm a PhD science student, but I actually know more science stuff than you would think I do, okay? So the universe does not gravitate towards order. It gravitates towards entropy, right? Chaos, right? The natural state of atoms, they do not want to stick together. They need energy to stick together. Their natural state, they float around, break apart. You need a certain amount of energy to go in to create an atomic bond, all that stuff. So you say, oh, millions of years. Millions of years of controlling this process exactly, I think I would create life. Well, you have no idea. But also, you could have infinite energy. You mean to tell me that happened in a hydrothermal vent? Hydrothermal vent for like millions of years, just some like outside of freaking volcano, basically under the water. You had so much energy that you kept defying the laws of entropy for millions of years to where like millions of years later, eventually somehow you created this bacteria thing. How does that actually make sense? You would think, okay, spontaneous generation, the way like atoms move, the creation of life would have to be something that happened fairly quickly. You can't just have, because how are atoms going to stick around like that for millions of years? Again, entropy, chaos, right? And how much energy would you need to be building freaking bonds like that for millions of years? I don't know what early Earth was like, but if it surpasses nuclear fusion, then I don't know how exactly you would be making this happen. You know? So you still have the problem of how do you create something from nothing? How do you create organic life from a bunch of inorganic matter? You still have this problem, okay? You say millions of years. You know, logically, how would that be consistent with what we know about entropy and the universe? See? You guys, you think all I do is thump the Bible on this? No. I know your fake scientific ways. I know all your MC squared. Hey, look. I know this. I get it too, but I still think logically. Like that's the highest IQ thing when it comes to science. You realize at the end, wait a minute, none of this makes sense. We must be divinely created. That's true. It's true. The low IQ is just like, I believe the Bible. Middle IQ says, actually. And then the high IQ is like, wait a minute, I have studied all of this. Atheism must be fake. Because I actually looked at, like, it actually doesn't make sense. It's true. Horseshoe theory of intelligence is true. Small grading guy for $2 says, if aliens aren't real, explain Nancy Pelosi. The reptilian thing is something I can get on board with, okay? I will do the reptilian thing. But I think that's way funnier and way more entertaining than saying, little alien man, ETs. Beep, boop, beep, boop. No, that's stupid. But shape-shifting reptilians, all of like our evil Democrat politicians, that one is funny. So I'll run that. I'll use that conspiracy theory. See, I endorse that conspiracy theory. That one is funny. But, you know. I think you misunderstand entropy. Put sugar in water and let it sit. See what happens. It turns into crystals. Okay, but you realize there's no chemical bond being made there. It's just, yeah, there's like the external reaction to what happens when you dissolve salt. But if you just turn up the heat to boiling temperature, what happens? All the water evaporates, all the salt or sugar will just be sit there still. There's no chemical bond there, okay? Life, we are built on chemical bonds. When you have sugar dissolve, there's no chemical bonding being done. Hence why it's just sugar and water. That's all that it is. Because of certain chemical properties of glucose or, sodium chloride, it's soluble, yes. But there are no chemical bonds being formed there. Hence why when you evaporate the water, all the salt's left behind. Life is based on chemical bonds. I don't know. I don't think I misunderstand entropy. I think you're just bringing up something. Oh, look at that's not a chemical reaction, Dirty Mike. See, this is the problem. That's not a chemical reaction. It's just one thing dissolving another. So I don't understand that example. How is that possible with your understanding of entropy? It's 100% possible, because what happens? A chemical bond does not form. They just stay separate from each other. It's just dissolving. It's a chemical property, whatever, but they don't bond with each other. That's possible with my understanding of entropy, because if you add enough heat and energy and the right types of bonds, yes, in some way you could hypothetically get H2O NaCl as one chemical compound. But it's consistent with my understanding of entropy, because you need an insane amount of energy to do that. Whereas in the natural state, what happens? They don't combine, they stay separate. See what I'm saying? Which is why I'm saying it doesn't make sense that millions of years, like you'd have to have so much energy and arrange in such a perfect way for millions of years to get all the things to come together and somehow form life, which still is very confusing. Like, we don't understand how this, like, DNA, what the heck is DNA? How does that spawn? We don't just see that just exist in nature, right? You know what I mean? But the point is, you need an insane amount of energy. And it's like, if we as humans, if we can do nuclear fusion, which to my understanding is probably one of the strongest energy creation things in the universe, right? Probably, well, I guess a star, when it freaking explodes, maybe is a little bit more. But if it's basically that, then how come nuclear fusion, we can't somehow create the conditions for life? Or we're totally clueless. We're totally clueless because we're divinely created. I don't know. You know what I mean? That's actually the most logical explanation when you consider everything. The scientists have no idea where life came from. They have no way to explain it. It's like nonsense. Disorder into order, Vince. Didn't you say that entropy makes that possible? No, I said the universe favors disorder, which is true. Because in order to create energy, chemical bonds, in order to create order, chemical bonds, you need energy. So, an insane amount of energy for what? To have an actual chemical bond to create a new compound, H2O NaCl, you would need a lot of energy. When you dissolve two things, okay, ionic bond, that's not a chemical bond, or it's not what I'm talking about. You don't create a new molecule when you dissolve salt and water. They just attach to each other, and it's a chemical reaction, but they don't actually do anything, you know? Just change state, whatever you want to call it, but so Kair St. Joseph says, one favorite metaphor I heard is that the chance of forming a complete cell by chance is the same as getting an unabridged dictionary from an explosion in the print shop. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's perfectly put. That's exactly what I'm saying. It does not make sense. Totally improbable. And then that thing somehow survives and reproduces, and then the whole timeline, it's totally irrational. It is. But they say, oh, believing in religion is irrational. Really? But your whole freaking nut job theory on this spontaneous generation thing makes sense? It doesn't make any sense. It's totally illogical. The Ramen Head Club says, idea for a new show, Vince Nye, the Science Guy. I know more stuff than people think I do. Just because I go out there and say science is fake because it's fun, because it makes people mad. People think I don't know stuff. I know stuff. I know plenty of this stuff. This science discussion should be a regular segment. I don't know that much science, though. I mean, because the thing is, like, I did really well in chemistry and whatnot, so, like, I kind of know this stuff. But, like, there's a lot of science stuff I just don't care for. Biology. What a bunch of nerds. Oh, look at the the organic chemistry. Dorks. DNGs. I will watch a video of a crocodile killed a wildebeest, though. Those are quite interesting. So, it takes more faith to be an atheist than a Christian. True. True. You know? People don't understand how incredibly complex the simplest life is. Exactly, yeah. No. Like, seriously, with all the technology we have, I'm serious. If life comes from where they say it comes from, it should not be that hard to just synthesize life. And I don't mean synthesize life from existing DNA. I mean just make DNA. You can make it. DNA is a chemical compound, right? You can make it. So, but I don't mean make it in a chemical, like, put it together. I mean, just put all the pieces together, put a bunch of energy to it. It should make DNA, shouldn't it? And it should just turn into life, you would think. Put it in front of nuclear, just have nuclear fusion going on, and you have all the energy, and you throw it into, you would think it should work. Doesn't work. It doesn't work. You know? Why? Because science is fake. Not real. Mankind didn't come from no monkey. Although I will say evolution is more plausible, in fairness. I would say that's more plausible than saying life is spontaneously generated. I think of all the big scientific theory stuff, evolution, Big Bang, the spontaneous generation of life by far makes, like, the least sense. It's just stupid. Like, at least you can kind of logically, hey, well, I guess evolution should make sense. Now, to be fair, we've never observed it. It's mathematically improbable. But still, okay, fine. I could see that argument. Oh, the chemical is just life. Yeah, except that, like, A, defies the laws of the universe, and then B, we've never been able to do that. Shouldn't be that hard. Especially if there's aliens. It should be something that happens regularly, right? You'd think. You would think. You vastly overestimate the state of technology. Well, we can do nuclear fusion, Dirty Mike. You understand that? That's how the sun, creates energy. That's the most powerful, besides a literal, like, supernova. That's the most powerful energy source in the universe is nuclear fusion. If we can do that, then surely we have enough energy to create life. If that's all that did it, it's just energy and chance and bacteria. Do it then. It's not that hard. Let's try it. Give it a try. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Oh, but they don't know, right? And then the new cope I've heard, some people think that life came from an asteroid. Oh, so literally out of this world, that's what created life? Yes, but we can't do it, Vince. Why can't we do it? If it was a naturally occurring process that happened, then surely we should be able to replicate it, right? At least simulate it. At least understand how it happened. Oh, we don't, though. Why can't we do it, then? If we can't do it, and it's just a natural process that occurred by chance and a bunch of complicated chemical reactions, then why can't we do it? It sounds pretty, it sounds simple, but it sounds doable. Why can't we do it? And if we can't do it now, why don't we observe that happening on Earth? Because we still have hydrothermal vents. How come we've never observed it? We've never seen that happen. We have no idea that it can happen, but everyone just believes it must be true. That's not very scientific, which you find a lot with the scientific industrial complex. They just make crap up, you know? We have to put in more energy than we can get out. We don't have the technology yet. I'm talking about fusion. No, I understand it's complicated, but fusion reactions, like, we can do those. It's just, yeah, you're right. It's very expensive. It takes a lot of money. But You mean to tell me we can't recreate the conditions hypothetically at a volcano? We can absolutely do that. It's not too hard. It should be doable. You know? So, Scrappy says, I have a question because I haven't read the Bible. Does the devil have the ability to make life? No. The devil can only twist and distort and screw with God's creation to the best of his ability. He has no ability to create for himself. That's why every, like, satanic imagery you see is just androgynous. It's just a twisted perversion of God's creation, because that's all that Satan can do. He can't create for himself. Dirty Mike says, explain to me how you know it isn't happening. That's an irrational... How do you know it's not happening? How do you know it is? I'm the skeptic here. I'm the skeptic. You're trying to convince me. So, explain to me how you know it isn't happening. Because we don't observe it happening. That's how we know it isn't happening. Or at least we have no reason to... I should say, null hypothesis, right? We have no reason to believe it is happening. You know? Okay, fine. I'm just saying. Okay, then let's try it with nuclear fission. That's still more energy than a volcano. So, especially a hydrothermal vent. All it is lava leaking out. Heck, go to the hydrothermal vent. I don't know. But, you know, they claim this is so easy, then they can go prove it. You could dispel all the creationists overnight. Just do it. Just go make it. It's easy. They have a reason to do it. It would literally, like, permanently dispel creationism, so just go do it. Try it. Give it a try. But they can't. Dirty Mike says, shouldn't you know... You said shouldn't it be happening? How do you know it's not? Well, now you're just getting into like kiddish stuff. How do you know? How do you know it's not happening? Like, what do you mean? We have no proof that it's happening. That's why I'm saying it's not. Like, I don't know what you're getting at there. You know? We've never observed it, therefore I have no reason to assume it exists. You know? That's what it is. How could we see that and differentiate it from just normal life and the time span is long? Perhaps that's all true, but so listen, what I'm saying is this is all a theory. It's not a theory. It's literally, because there's no basis for it. It's a hypothesis. Literally just someone wrote down a hypothesis, okay? Why would I take something that is totally unproven just on the base? Your only rationale for this is, how do you know it's not happening? Well, how do you know how do you, like, you could say that to like anything. There's a billion things out you could, how do you know it's not true? But we're debating aliens. You're asking me to take this assumption about the creation of life and apply it to the rest of the universe when there's no proof or no basis, no way to substantiate that even logically whatsoever, right? How do you know it's not happening? Well, I guess maybe it is happening, but if we have no idea whether it is or not, and like I said, entropy-wise, it doesn't even make a whole lot of sense. Even you sit down and think, it's like, it doesn't seem like that should be happening. Okay, maybe it is. Maybe we're wrong. But why would I take that and apply that to my view of aliens and the rest of the universe if you can't even prove on Earth that that's how life is created, right? Because I believe life is created by divine creation, which actually logically makes more sense than your hypothesis, considering you can't really, like, no one can explain this spontaneous generation thing. But you're asking me, this all started over aliens. You're asking me to take your totally unfounded, unproven, how do you know it's not happening, literally like no different than if a third grader just came around and made it up. That's the same level of proof here. Okay, so you're taking me to take your hypothesis, which I disagree with, and then saying you're wrong about aliens because you don't accept my unproven hypothesis that's foundational to my belief in aliens. Do you understand how we're on totally different wavelengths there, right? I'm not going to take how do you know it's not happening as proof of first life on Earth and then apply that to the rest of the universe. You have to first prove, or at least to a degree, I understand there's a little bit of faith involved. Fine. It is a religious argument in itself, to be totally honest with you. People say it's not. It absolutely is. Okay, fine. But if you're not going to like convince me whatsoever that it is happening and just say, how do you know it's not? How do you know it's not real? Then why would I apply something I like have no reason to believe to my theory of the universe and life elsewhere in the universe if you can't even prove it here on Earth? So Dirty Mike says, I'm saying you are justifying your argument by saying shouldn't it be happening, but it may be. It's not a good reason. No, the difference is you're asking me to like prove a negative, right? I'm saying it's not happening. If I say the negative, if I say I don't believe this because I see no evidence, the burden of proof is on you to prove that it's happening, right? Especially if we're talking about this scientifically, then we start with the assumption that we have no idea, right? And so you're asking me to argue or prove a negative. The burden of proof is on the person arguing a positive to prove that something is real, not on the skeptic to prove that it's not real, right? I'm the skeptic asking you for the proof and you don't have the proof, but you're saying that, well, you know, you don't have the proof either. Which most things about our existence, you can't 100% disprove that so-and-so theory is not true. But scientifically, you're supposed to, in order to believe a positive, we can believe all the negatives. That's the null hypothesis. We can have all the negatives, right? In order for you to prove a positive, you have to come with a proof. It's not my job to prove that something like it does not exist, right? It's your job to prove that it does exist or it's true. You see what I'm saying? Because if we have two things, right? Let's say, you know, I don't know. Let's just say dark matter. Let's take another example, right? We have two people. I say, I don't know what dark matter is, so therefore I don't believe it exists. You say it does exist. If you come to me, you don't come to me and say, where's the proof that dark matter doesn't exist? It's your job as the person arguing a positive to prove that it does exist. So, and that's the scientific way to view it. See, what you're arguing, it's not even a theory. It's certainly not a scientific law. It's just a total hypothesis. There's no proof. There's no evidence. There's no replication, which is why I'm acting on the assumption that it's not true, because that's you're letting your faith cloud the science. That's the scientific way to view it. The scientific way to view it would be to say, well, you know, I don't have any proof that this is real, therefore I cannot assume it is. That's all I'm doing. People say, oh, spontaneous generation must be real. I'm like, okay, show it then. Where is it? Let's see it. Let's see spontaneous generation. That's how you would prove a hypothesis in science, is you have to do an experiment and prove it and show, hey, look, this is what happened. If you can't do that, then I'm not going to accept your hypothesis. You want to be a science, like if you're going to be a science nerd and totally, then I'm going to like get back at you with this pseudo-intellectual thing. Then you have no proof. You have no proof of your hypothesis. All I'm arguing is the null hypothesis. I am saying we have no reason to believe X is true. If you're going to present to me an alternative hypothesis and say, I believe that X is true, the proof is on you to prove to me that X is true. If not, if we just have no idea, then we assume that the null is true. See what I'm saying? You know? Let's see here. We need to get... Let's see. Where's the water buffalo? Did I miss the reaction? Yeah, you go back. You'll watch. You'll see it on the replay. I'll do it later. What's happening? We're debating aliens. And in order to debate aliens, we're debating the theory of spontaneous generation of life. So my whole thing that I keep arguing is, you know, because I was pointing out one argument of the alien crowd. They say, supposedly, there are all these million, like, Earth-like planets in the galaxy, in the universe. There's all these planets out there that we think are like Earth. They're carbon, same range from the sun, you know, carbon, oxygen, all those vital elements. You know, we think Goldilocks zone, we think that's where they are. And so we say, oh, because life exists on Earth and we breathe oxygen and use carbon as our kind of like base element, then throughout the universe, there must also be alien civilizations or species that also start out of Earth-like conditions. And my counter argument to that is that assumes that you know how life started, right? That assumes your whole spontaneous generation theory of the carbon and the hydrothermal vent, and they just came together and boom, life. That assumes that that is true. And my whole thing is I don't have any belief that that is true, because that's just totally made up. We've never seen that happen. We have no evidence that that does happen. We have no power to recreate it, although it supposedly is so simple. But then we say it must be happening on other planets. Well, that assumes you know the process to create life. You say, well, probability-wise, there must be life outside of the universe, because outside of Earth, because look at how many planets are like Earth out there. But that doesn't equate. Yes, I agree there's other planets like Earth, if you assume that space is real, of course, right? But that doesn't prove that there's life, because you don't know the conditions, you don't know the circumstances of the creation of life. Yes, in theory, if it just was born out of geothermal vents, then there should be aliens everywhere. Sure, I get that. I get that logic. But if you haven't proved or established that it's actually born out of spontaneous generation from geothermal vents, then I have no reason to say, because there are other planets like Earth, there must be life on other planets like Earth. You see what I'm saying? You have hypothesis, you have let's say it's like a 3-point argument here, you know, freaking thesis, support, conclusion, whatever. Okay, we've established number one. At least if you believe the space is real, fine. Which, for the sake of argument, fine, right? Okay. There are other planets like Earth in the galaxy, in the universe. Okay, fine. Your point 2 is, because there are other planets like Earth, there must be other life, like Earth-like life in the universe. But again, unless you can establish what creates life on Earth, we have no reason to believe that. See, because I believe in divine creation, and like I said, it's literally more logical than spontaneous generation, I don't assume that that's true. Perhaps it is. Perhaps God does choose to create on other planets. It's a possibility. I don't know. But I'm not going to just assume that because there are other planets like Earth. So if divine creation, which is something I would argue you can't even statistically quantify, but if it's something that is so rare and like totally out there, right? Then how would I say probability-wise there must be life elsewhere in the universe? That's kind of the point. Dirty Mike for 2 says, still a fan, even with your faulty science views. You're the one with the faulty science views. Aliens are fake. You're coping. Cope. Thank you for the 2. But you're the one coping. You think I'm coping, okay? You're the one coping. And you're just going to keep saying, you know, this is just your Bible thumping. How is it Bible thumping? No. I have argued from science for a very long time, and people are impressed. They're like, Vince, I didn't know you actually could argue like that. Yeah, I can. I'm a former atheist. I had to actually think those things through. It wasn't just, you know, I went to church and it was just kind of like implanted in me. I had to logically have these conversations with myself, okay? I was going schizo on the whiteboard. Not actually, but you know what I mean. It was happening in my brain. And this even before I believed in Christ. That's actually what kind of first established to me that God must be real, or that we must be divinely created, is because I kind of was like, how does life actually form? And you actually look at it, or inorganic matter never is observed naturally just turning into organic matter. It doesn't even logically make sense. I was even taking chemistry at the time. I was taking college level chemistry, AP chemistry, and I was like, that doesn't actually make sense with the things I learn in this class. How does life actually form? No one, like, I was like, whoa. And then I was like, yeah, science is just, they're all fake. They claim they know what they're talking about, but by their own logic, their whole little stuff is just nonsense. It is. It's true. It's true. You're making basic philosophy of science arguments, which most people can't do, sadly. True. The other planets do not contain life. They are for the glorification of the Lord. See Psalm 19:1. See, I that's generally what I believe too. But like I said, it is possible. I understand the Matt Walsh argument. Like, it's possible that, yeah, if he could also create other life to glorify him. I accept that could be a possibility. It's just, you know, I don't see it as probable. And the people who say it is probable, to that I say, well, but your probability thing doesn't really equate. So, you know. Percocet says, Vince Dow, are you Italian and Korean? I am Italian and Vietnamese, and probably part Chinese. That's where Dow comes from. And probably part Mongol, because Genghis Khan. But to my knowledge, I am Italian and Vietnamese. It's theoretically possible. Yeah, it is theoretically possible. I mean, I accept that, but it's still, I don't know, it just doesn't seem the most likely. All right, last call for Super Chats. We went way over. I'll end at 12:10 a.m. A very long stream. 3 hours. We have not done a 3-hour stream in a while, but it was fun. It was fun. I'm enjoying this little science-y thing, okay? And it's real. But let's see here. The Drake equation is used by cosmologists with no attention to chemistry or biology. Still, though, I'm pretty sure the Drake equation quantifies that. This is not very likely, but whatever. You're biracial? Yeah. You can't see into my eyes. I have the biggest eyes of any Asian you've ever seen. I'm tired right now, so a little bit, but you can see it in my facial structure, I feel like. It was a great stream. Thank you, St. Joseph. I appreciate it. I appreciate you appreciating the stream. The Mongols failed to invade Vietnam. They started a trend. Vietnam is not easy to invade, okay? It's all jungle, you know? How do you invade jungle? It's like Florida. You would not want to invade Florida. Ask the U.S. Army during the Seminole Wars in the Everglades. You do not want to invade Florida. Anything tropical, it's like you really want to fight a war there when the natives know? It's difficult. Brandon Gross for $5. Thank you very much. Says, how are you doing, Vince? Great night for a show. I was wondering your thoughts on the U.S. economy right now, and do you think China will keep buying up land? Yeah, well, the economy is screwed. I've said this before. Thanks for the 5. I think really we're going to be, it's an important time. You need to have as many assets as possible because we're going to head into the age where assets are everything. It's very difficult to own assets because of this. Yes, China's buying land, BlackRock, Bill Gates, all of them, right? They're all hogging up the real estate, and that's going to be the future. So the economy, I mean, yeah, it's screwed. It's not looking good. I think we're going to head to a point over time, currency becomes more and more meaningless. And as currency becomes meaningless, inflation, all that stuff, and the price of stuff just gets super expensive, real estate especially, it's going to become an asset war. That's what happens when it's, the currency goes to nothing. Whoever owns the assets, that's your real estate, gold, all that type of stuff, those are the people who make it out, and they're the rich ones, whereas the people who have no assets and only have a bunch of paper, they're the poor ones. So I think it's going to be an asset war, and I think that's kind of the future of the economy. Which is why you should check out our sponsors over at Noble Gold Investments, over at VinceDaoGold.com. Protect your retirement with a gold IRA at VinceDaoGold.com. True. But yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of entities buying up the real estate. It's not just foreign entities, not just domestic. There's just a lot going on. There's a lot going on. And it's not looking good for the future because we're going to hit a point where what's happening here is all these rich entities, whether that's firms or individuals, they're all just putting down the down payments for the real estate, right? House is $800,000. Here's $800,000. Take it. Boom. Have the house. So if you're a bank, you want all the money straight up, ideally. If you're going to do a mortgage, which is a loan, right? It's like a loan, pay it back. Then you're going to say, okay, well, Mr. Bill Gates Bugman here is offering me the whole sum of money. You want a mortgage. Either I'm going to give it right to Bill Gates and you're screwed, or if you're going to give me this mortgage, you're going to have to pay an exorbitant interest rate. It's going to be a very unfavorable mortgage because your competition is the person saying, here's the down payment. So if I'm not going to take the down payment, you need to somehow make that up with a crazy interest rate. And so this whole thing that interest rates are going to go down, we'll be fine. Well, that's only true if freaking all these people and firms don't stop buying up all the real estate. Because if that happens, then why would the interest rates go down? Think about the competition. Why would the price of mortgages and the rates on mortgages get better? They're going to only get worse because it's going to become more competitive. You're not competing with other normal American families also trying to buy the same house. You're competing with Bugman. I'm going to go in and buy up all that land and then buy synthetic farm. And even if you're in a neighborhood where BlackRock or some foreign landlord or Mr. Gates is not bought up, well, what's going to happen to the national market? It's, you know, it impacts each other, supply and demand. So if the neighborhood over here, BlackRock owned, all that stuff, that also creates supply and demand problems. So the people go to your neighborhood and then they're trying to fight for this house. So you understand, right? Even to the places where all these entities do not touch in terms of, you know, buying the real estate, they're still going to impact the prices and you're still going to get crappy mortgage rates. And so the solution, really, try to get as many assets in the next few years as you can. Own the gold, own the house, even the cars, maybe to an extent. Assets, assets, assets. You need them. Because when everything goes into flames, you with who owns the assets, you're going to be fine. The person who doesn't have any of them, not good. Not good. But that was the first question, and, well, that was the question. All right, I think that was the last super chat. Let me check Streamlabs one last time. Let's see here. Record long stream, as of late. I mean, the longest stream we've ever done is like 7 hours, but we'll make sure nothing on Streamlabs. That one is an old one. Okay, good to go. All right, well, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. We will be live tomorrow. Let me actually give you the time. We're going to go live for the Mike Pence announcement, okay? So let's see what time that is. Let's see what time that is tomorrow. I'm not sure, actually. Does it say yet? Okay, New York. You created an account. Seriously? Can we just get an article? When exactly is this happening? Let me try to find it. I read that it was tomorrow. I don't know what time. Okay, whatever time the Mike Pence announcement is tomorrow, we will be live reacting to that. It'll be funny. So join us then. And yeah, be sure to leave a like on the stream before you go. Let's get to 200 likes. And until then, ladies and gentlemen, have a very good night. Alpha moves only. God bless. Have a very good night. Aliens are not real. And peace. Dirty Mike says tomorrow's topic is ghost and the science behind it, right, Vince? Ghosts are not real, but angels are real. I actually think, let me just go back here. I actually think Mothman, you want to know a conspiracy I do believe? I believe Mothman is an angel. And maybe it's a demon, who knows? But I think it's an angel, because think about it, right? Flies, blah, 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 you know. Mothman's actually a hero, because he scares people away from a site, right? Whenever something bad's going to happen, what is he? He's terrifying. He's intimidating. People run when they see Mothman. We got to move out. And then what happens? Whoever was scared off by Mothman, they actually saved their life. Mothman's never been recorded attacking anyone. He squeaks very loud because he wants you to get out. He wants to scare you. And when you look at it biblically, I know we have this image that angels are like just humans with wings or whatever, but most angels as recorded in the Bible, there's a few. There's the archangels that I guess supposedly I think look like us. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the angels are like crazy looking, you know. They look up biblically accurate angels. So I think Mothman is 5D conspiracy theory. I think Mothman is a biblically accurate angel who wants to try to warn people and scare people away from you know, wherever natural disasters happen, because he's trying to save lives, because he's a warrior of God. Hot take? Schizo? I don't know. That's a conspiracy theory, I believe. Okay, let's play the intro one more time. Good night.